Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I am Georgia Christea, Tax Events Coordinator, and it's thrilling to see so many of you online. We are, I think, more than 170, maybe 180 from all corners of the world. It's a great pleasure to have you all present for the second edition of the Open Table discussion on traditional architecture and urban design summer schools. This roundtable is organized this time with the International Network for Traditional Building, Architecture and Urbanism, INTBAU, and the Traditional Architecture Group, TAG, which are us, which is in fact the host of the UK chapter of INTBAU. A big thank you to the panelists for joining us this evening in this celebration of this continuously growing phenomenon, the traditional architecture and urban design summer schools. As time is pressing on, I'm handing over to Mark Wilson-Jones, who will present the reasons and context of the apparition of the summer schools, introduce the moderators and the aspirational timeline of the evening. But before doing that, I would like to remind you that, as usual, after the discussions, we will have a session of questions and answers. If you have questions during the talk, please type your questions on the message bar at the bottom of the screen, and after the talk, I will invite you to unmute your microphone and ask your questions directly. Thank you. Mark, your floor is yours.
Thank you, Georgia. I hope that's clear for everyone. It was clear for me, so we're good to go. So I'm Mark Wilson-Jones, and I will be co-convening this event with Alex DOWTHWAITE and Georgia, who you've just heard from. I'm an architect, but better known as an architectural historian, and currently chair of TAG. That's the word the acronym we use for Traditional Architecture Group. And after teaching history, theory and studio in a leading UK architecture school for over 20 years, I'm delighted now to be visiting professor at the Centre for the Study of Classical Architecture at Cambridge. And this is relevant because we have a summer school, and that is developed out of the forerunner at Engelsberg in Sweden, which was key to this whole movement. Alex heads INTBAU Australia and the Prince's Trust work in Australia in this area. He is also chair of the INTBAU Education Committee, and he's joining us from Sydney, despite it being very early tomorrow morning, if you see what I mean. But Georgia is the key person here, since quite apart from being TAG's events coordinator, generally for all our events, she has been the brain, the mover and the shaker in setting up this particular phenomenon, our open table discussion. This is the second event, as she mentioned. And Georgia is a conservation architect passionate about traditional building techniques and craftsmanship and their continuing relevance in the present. So she also advocates for a better cross-collaboration between the fields of conservation and new traditional buildings, and we couldn't be without her. So this brings me on to why this event is needed. Why are summer schools teaching traditional architecture and urbanism a matter for urgent discussion? And why is their very existence, for some people, including many architectural educators, controversial? For anyone who might wonder why this could be so, because it does seem strange, allow me a brief word of background. It's curious, is it not, to say the least, that the vast majority of architectural schools in the world do not consider traditional architecture and urbanism as acceptable subjects, unless as purely academic material. Many educational institutions do not judge the history of architecture to be relevant either. And to seek to apply the lessons of history in practice today is for some almost heretical. But applying the lessons of the past to guide the present and the future should be normal in any walk of life. Now, a little word of explanation will be obvious to most of you, but for anyone who's sort of new to this area, I think it's possibly worth saying that a lot of this arises in the wake of World War I and the avant-garde and ideas and modernist ideologies, which all arose for understandable reasons. And vigorous youthful energies thirsting for radical transformation, this is understandable too. But the new concepts became tools of industrial production, standardization, consumerism, and globalization, producing ultimately alienation. And in the decades following World War II, dogma was blind to this problem and many other problems and replaced previous teaching cultures, sort of ignorant of all the damage that was being done. Traditional principles were discarded, leading to a loss of knowledge about how buildings and cities are created and how they embody human values and patterns of life. Designers sought to adapt to technological processes, shifting away from craftsmanship and natural materials, local networks, and longevity of construction. Only recently is the general public waking up to the significant costs for the built environment and indeed the global environment and climate due to the unsustainability of short-life buildings, reinforced concrete, steel, glass, and hydrocarbon products. And what is worse, these are typically combined into composite installations that are notoriously difficult even to try to recycle. So how then to recover sane ways of building? It's just too true, isn't it, that you don't know what you've got till it's gone. The only good thing in this truth is that it can provoke a reaction and a renaissance that starts from a low base, the ground in fact, then to sprout up unstoppably to grow and flourish. And this is what is happening. And this is the backdrop to the thirst for summer schools that is our topic for discussion this evening. There is indeed so much energy manifesting itself spontaneously. Not long ago, there was just the Engelsberg Summer School in traditional ways of building, virtually alone. By last year, this tag event involved 7 summer schools, and now our joint event with INTBAU, we have 15, and we are sure that there are even more we don't know about. Some of these summer schools were born in part as a result of the INTBAU incubator last summer. A forum for sharing ideas, advice and good practice, this gave some courage to others to launch new summer schools, as we will hear. These initiatives are happening quite simply because the existing summer schools are oversubscribed. The demand is there and it is clearly growing, and there is need for greater diversity in terms of content, timing and delivery, and these are all among the topics we will be discussing. But before dividing straight into content, let me give you a brief outline of what's about to unfold. So we're about to start a first section, which is a rapid fire sequence of 3-minute presentations, so as to familiarize everyone with each of our 15 stalwart summer schools. There will then be a shorter section on 3 presentations relating to what we call hands-on programs focused mainly on making, craftsmanship and conservation. And then after a brief discussion, we will go into the second section. And this has the aim of confronting strategic challenges and how to go forward, including possible routes to accreditation. And we will also ask what can be done so that this movement can achieve greater reach, visibility and impact. And this will bring us on to the third section, which will start to be more relaxed, because after this will be around in 2 hours' time. So we'll need to go into a more relaxed, looser style in order to allow for reflections from invited guests that will lead seamlessly, surely, to a fourth and final section that concludes with a question and answer session thrown open to the audience. All this is ridiculously ambitious. All I can say in defense of trying to pack in all of this is that there is so much interest out there that we just have to try. So now it's time to launch the first section. And like a TV quiz show host, I have to introduce the rules. And that is for each of you to stick relentlessly to the 3-minute time target, and ideally to come in slightly shorter. At around 2 minutes and 40 seconds, if I'm reading my stopwatch, you might hear a little reminder that time is coming. And then if you go over 3 minutes and 10 seconds, we'll be slightly angrier. And then, you know, if all hell will break loose, if we have to jangle the bell, if it goes over 3.5 minutes. So be warned. Well, that was quite fierce, wasn't it? I'm generally quite a mild man, but in this situation, I think we have to get slightly aggressive on timekeeping. So is that all clear? Are we ready with the first section of slides and presentations? And am I correct to be introducing John Simpson? With Joanna, of course. Georgia, can I have confirmation of that?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Right, good, good. We've got the slides. So I'll start. The Cambridge Summer School is run by the Centre for the Study of Classical Architecture at Downing College in Cambridge. We take 15 students of architecture or architects with 5 years, within 5 years of graduation, of any nationality from any part of the world. And it's a 5-week program, 1 week starting at Engelsberg in Sweden, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and then 4 weeks at Downing College in Cambridge next. The first week Next, the first week is spent at Engelsberg studying Swedish timber vernacular. The next slide, please. No?
No.
Next, yeah. Students learn how to measure and to analyze buildings. They get the benefit of lectures by Mark Wilson-Jones on the origins of the temples and the proportions of the orders. Then they're taken on a 2-day study trip to Stockholm to see how the tradition, in combination with the classical orders, comes to influence urban architecture in the Swedish cities. Next. In Cambridge, they get down to designing buildings and learn the significance of designing so that their buildings are an integral part of the historic city. Past projects include a new Porter's Lodge at Downing College, an extension to the Fitzwilliam Museum, and the redesign of the infamous traffic junction at Hyde Park Corner in Cambridge, turning it into a civilized square. Next. They learn to watercolor under the direction of Chris Draper and are tutored by visiting tutors including Craig Hamilton, Ben Pentreath, Hugh Petter, Ben Bulger, Francis Terry, and Joanna Vasiliak, amongst others. Next, in addition to the architecture and the excitement of spending summer in Cambridge, the students have the benefit of the resources of the School of Architecture of one of the leading universities in the country. They get a series of lectures led by the director of the centre, Dr. Frank Salmon, in history and theory of architecture. They have access to libraries and the historic collections of drawings, and are taken on visits to buildings, not only in Cambridge, but to Oxford, Bath, London, and this year we'll be going to Poundbury. At the end of the programme, students always ask, where do we go from here? Well, we're extending the summer school programme, so the content will be different from one year to the next, run on a 4-year cycle. So students will be able to come back if they wish and attend more than one summer school. This way, students working in practice can seriously augment their knowledge base and build up their education in classical architecture, and do so while they are in employment. Thank you.
Brilliant, John. Under time. Fantastic.
Good.
So, next, please. And Edward is hopefully grappling with the slides.
Should I start?
Yes, do. That would be great, Alessandro. Yeah, Alejandro, if you can. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Well, our program is the Iberian Traditional Architecture Summer School, which is organized by the Traditional Building Cultures Foundation, along with the Spanish and Portuguese chapters of INTBAU. And this program is probably the longest running one, and it's been an itinerant program from the very beginning. It's you can go to the next slide. It's a 2 weeks program, and I think the main the distinctive character of this program is that it's very focused on studying a place. So the places are chosen by the quality of their architecture and also their character, and then most of the time is dedicated to studying their urban architectural and constructive characteristics, and this is done. Next slide. This is done through basically drawing, measuring, and also inviting experts on the history, the culture of the place, as well as local masters in building crafts to at least have an introduction on the ways of building in every place. Next, please. And the next one we are organizing, it will be in Ronda, southern Spain. So the area of the White Villages, as it is called now. And this program is open to students from all over the world. The first week, as I said, will be focused on studying this region and the different towns that will be visited. And the second week will be dedicated, as it is always done, to develop some design proposals we draw on this tradition. And these design proposals are always discussed with the local community, and the municipality hosting the event always collaborates in deciding what to do. So it always addresses the actual problems of and challenges of the communities where the program is developed. If you can go please to the next one. Sometimes these challenges are related to new developments, new urban developments. Sometimes it's about some infill projects. Sometimes it's about just improving some buildings. As I said, it is all done with the municipality, and then there is a public exhibition with all the work done by the end. And the community is also welcome to every lecture and most of the activities too. So this is what I can say. We are fortunate to have the support of several entities, which allow us to have a very low fee for the participation, as well as a number of scholarships that cover also even that fee. So it's a very affordable program for those interested. And that's all.
Thank you very much, Alejandro. That's perfect. So as hopefully, mind you, I have to say one thing, is that I couldn't see your slides. I don't know if that was just me or if that was everyone. And I don't know if Edward, if that's something that can be
can anyone confirm that?
I was able to see the slides fine.
Oh, good,
so.
good. Well, if it's that's
me too.
Thank you.
Oh, good, excellent. We don't have to worry about me. So fine. Right, so we proceed on to, is it Nadia, I believe, will be presenting rather than Noah, the Table Ronde. So off you go, Nadia.
Hello, thank you for inviting us to this important gathering. La Table Ronde de l'Architecture is a non-profit association based in Bruges, and is also the representative of the Belgian chapter of the INTBAU network. And we organize every year a summer school of architecture and crafts in the city of Bruges. The school is a 2-week program open to students, professional and curious of all kinds from all over the world. Next slide, please. This year, the school starts with lecture on the history of the city of Bruges since its foundation in the 9th century, as it is an essential introduction for students to understand the evolution of the urban fabric and the context in which they will be working. Through observation and drawing, students will examine Bruges city blocks and their buildings, public space and streets. They will study the places that have shaped the development of the city, such as the Burg, the birthplace of Bruges, with its town hall, basilica and municipal archive. And the Markt, the beating heart of commercial development, with its great belfry and market halls. Students will also visit and study Bruges Beguinage and Godshuizen, which act as social housing for small communities, and some of them for more than 400 years. Next slide, please. This year, our school has chosen to focus on the study and the art of carpentry and brick and stone masonry. Students will take part in small workshop on brickwork and stone carving, and will then be invited to examine, measure and draw the brickwork, stonework and timber frames of both modest and remarkable buildings in the city. At the same time, they will receive lessons on geometry and its use in the art of stone and brick masonry. The students will not have to produce a project as we normally do every year, but will study in depth the civic, religious and domestic architecture of Bruges through various drawing studies, from plans, elevation and section to construction details. Our teaching teams stress the importance of measured drawing and technical details, as these are at the heart of the architect and craftsman profession. You can't design or build without constraints. Constraints are always linked to the materials you use and the techniques you apply. Without this, architecture becomes a mere drawing exercise, as romantic as it is unrigorous. Next slide, please. There will also be a range of lecture, including the role of the builder in modern times, the origin and nature of Gothic architecture, the story of the Gothic revivals, and more. I would say that beyond the course program, the heart of this school lie in the perpetual discussion, lively debates that our students eagerly engage in. What unites us is a common interest in the history and science of architecture. We simply ask our students to share this interest and be open-minded. I will hand it over to Noé Morin, who will give you a presentation of the Conques Summer School, which is also organized by our association. And about the Bruges Summer School, you can find all the information on our website.
Thank you, Nadia. Right, over to Noé.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. So the Conques Summer School, 2 years ago, thanks to the inspiration of our Iberian friends and ALEJANDRO, who is present tonight, and in addition to the school in Bruges, about which Nadia just talked, we have created an itinerant summer school in France. So this school is itinerant because each year it moves to a new region. Last year, our students explored Alsace. And by the way, the pictures that you are going to see on the next slide have been taken during last year's Alsace summer school. So on the coming slide, yes. This year, they will explore the Aveyron. For those unfamiliar with French geography, Aveyron is in the south of France, a little above the city of Toulouse. It's a region that corresponds to the former Languedoc, which is the territory where the Languedoc, the southern French dialect, was spoken, the language of troubadours and of courtly love. During the Romanesque period, a truly original civilization was developing in Languedoc with flourishing Romanesque architecture, prosperous counties, fortresses like Carcassonne, and a spirituality rooted in Eastern monism. So our team discovered this fascinating region on a recent trip, and it was while visiting the little village of Conques, which lies on the pilgrimage route to Santiago de Compostela, that we decided to establish our next summer school there. And you will see pictures of Conques on the next slide. So it is hard to resist the charm of the village of Conques, where the buildings are made of schist and red sandstone, with a few half-timbered walls, roofs covered with lows, which is a sort of volcanic stone, and a sumptuous Romanesque abbey church featuring one of the most beautiful tympanums in France. So since we were under the spell of this wonderful place, we decided quite opportunely, I admit, to organize a summer school there, which would give our students the opportunity to study local architecture and history in depth. On the other hand, we deeply believe that places like Conques are so beautiful and moving that they can actually change a life. The beauty of Conques is vernacular, with the exception of the Abbey Church, which requires the work of a master builder. The village of Conques is made up of modest dwellings built with rudimentary means. Here, there is no question of classical orders, flamboyant Gothic, or Baroque ornamentation. This is the simplest vernacular style to be found, but also the most effective and moving because it was implemented by the inhabitants themselves. So during this summer school, we will spend a lot of time studying the local vernacular with particular attention to the construction techniques used. To this end, our students will be given advanced courses in traditional carpentry and masonry. We will also study Romanesque symbolism using the example of the Abbey Church of Conques. We will look at the practical and theoretical considerations of builders in the Romanesque period. We will review the history of the village and the region to understand how the economy, town planning, and social life functioned in the 12th century in such an isolated location. And finally, students will be drawing a lot. So as in our school in Bruges, they will draw in the form of measure drawing, construction details, sections, elevations, from the most detailed to the most general. And well, yeah, perhaps I'm running out of time, so I will end here. But saying that there are a lot of pilgrims coming to Conques, and students coming from afar need not to be frightened by the geographical isolation and small size of the village, for the pilgrims are friendly and eager to talk, and our students may well meet more fruitful people in Conques than they would in a big city. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Noé. You realize you risked the terrible clanging bell with that little technique of saying I finished, but then I have a little bit more. Very clever, very clever. But no one else can do that. Over to thank you very much. No, that was great. So we're going to Utrecht, so
Utrecht.
to speak. Yes, absolutely.
Vincent and Ruben, please.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me all? I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you again for organizing this. We're happy to be back for the second time. So to the next slide, please. So I will try to keep it even shorter. We put much more words on the screen for you to read. But the core thing of our summer school is really traditional urbanism in the Netherlands. We are blessed with many intact medium-sized historic cities, very picturesque cities mostly. So we chose our summer school to be in the center of the country. Sorry, not the next slide yet. Yeah, in Utrecht, we house the students there. We give them a bike. They get a chance to explore the city by bike, the favorite Dutch mode of transportation, and experience the city in a humane way. In that way, we do everything by hand. We focus mainly on urbanism, but we also do a short introduction to classical architecture and traditional design principles in architecture. We rent spaces, generous spaces from the University of Utrecht. And we're heading to our 4th edition, which we're very happy about. The rest of the information is in front of you, of the things relevant on this slide. So we'll now hand over my microphone to Ruben. To the next slide, please.
Yes, thank you. Can everybody hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So we have a very large group of international teachers coming to our summer school. We're very blessed to have, you see the whole list of names on the screen, but we have, basically teachers teaching everything from Dutch urban history, architectural history, to teaching lessons, to drawing lessons, to crafts, basically, the whole slew of things that is needed to design, to get basic knowledge of traditional urbanism, so internationally and from the Netherlands. And of course, we have a big team of regular teachers composed of all the list you see down there, which I think is has worked really well out really well the last few years. Next slide, please. So in our design studio, we have, of course, an urban design project, which is a bit larger than individual building designs. So we focus on an area in Utrecht, which needs to be designed. The last 2 years, we chose the Merwede Kanaalzone, which is a very big area that is going to be redeveloped. And basically, it's a sort of counter design proposal, but of course not as developed as the full plan. Basically this challenge is all about learning from local precedents and trying to adapt that in new urban context, including local architecture, but also local urban forms. So I think it's time to head the word back to Vincent for the last few points.
Yes. Oh, sorry, almost done. So what I wanted to add is that the sites we choose to do our projects are close by the summer school, so the students can always go there, get a sense of the scale, get a sense of the environment, and another point is, I think the most important thing about these summer schools is really to build a network and plant seeds. And I think it's been quite successful, as your gathering proves. And even the most beautiful thing is when students start their own summer schools. For example, the Strong Towns summer school. There's one thing I'd like to add, and that's also not only the student experience, but also the experience for us as teachers, that we're building the experience to grow, to make our own summer schools better. And also, what did I want to say? We put out a survey at the end of our summer schools, a detailed survey, so we are sure that we didn't miss anything, and we are very grateful for the student feedback, and we try to improve our course every year. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that was another double act, but you only had 3 minutes between you. So I let you go on slightly longer, which was, you know, a bad thing, but we'll manage. So on to the next.
Robert.
Yeah, I'm here. Well, yeah, good evening. Thank you for having us. It's good to be back. So 2025 will be our third year running the Create Streets Urban Design and Summer School. And it's generally part of our larger kind of educational offering. We do a lot of sort of weekend courses in London. So if you're in London, take a look at those as well. And this year we're again running it with Adam Architecture's Hugh Petter, who ran it so brilliantly with his colleague Andrew Moneyhave for last year. Slide 2, please. So what inspired us to start a summer school? Well, it was something that Nicholas Boyce Smith, our founder, who many of you might know, had been wanting to do for years. And over the years, Create Streets has been involved in a wide range of design, research, policy work, working with politicians, developers, planners, and the public, of course, promoting high-density, beautiful, street-based, economically and socially successful developments. And we were learning so much along the way, and we felt we had to give back and share our experience. So finally, we felt ready to start a summer school. Slide 3. So our summer school is set in the beautiful market town of Sherborne in Dorset. It's about 2 hours by train from London, which we think is a great location. It's kind of just far away enough from London to kind of feel like you're getting a proper English countryside experience. And it's a beautiful town with hamstone buildings. Kind of looks like the Cotswolds, but more livable. And we've been aiming to fill a gap between our practical urban design knowledge and traditional architecture, which we think is really lacking in most universities. It definitely is in the UK. So on the screen, you see a couple of photos from the summer school, some examples of student work as well. In both 2024 and again in 2025, we asked students to design a master plan, and then for those doing the architecture module, also design vernacular or classical buildings for a choice of brownfield sites in the town center. And then we explore the connections between urban form and design with well-being, sustainability, prosperity, value, and popularity. And then we go on multiple walks in the town. We do sketching, measured drawings, and finally presentations at the end with tutors and invited critics. Next slide, please. In 2025, we're expanding again, this time from 6 days to 10. And just to conclude, we've been immensely impressed with the dedication and creativity of the students, and we've come away more convinced than ever that there is a massive gap in education for this sort of teaching, especially in England. And we're just very excited to see what the next generation of designers and architects will be doing in July. So again, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Oops, sorry. Yes, you can hear. Good. Thank you, Robert. That's great. So I am just juggling. I'm having a little bit of technology problems because I can't see the slides unless I look at, I've got a parallel laptop, but that means I can't see my list. So George,
next one, it's Robert Adam.
Right. Excellent.
So I'll kick off. This is another Robert.
Yep. Off you go.
We actually changed the title of this course to make it more attractive, but it's actually about symbolism and composition. And it all began because it's part of this thing, because it's not a summer school. I run a classical design workshop at Oxford University, and the students there wanted more. So this is a 1-week residential course at the University of Oxford, studying composition and symbolism. Next slide. Next slide. Yes, I mean it's we have 10 students is our maximum. We can get it up to 12. Very mixed bag. Students, pensioners, financiers, and so on. They don't all have to draw. Some of them can write essays. And what we do is we look at a wide range of classical buildings in Oxford, and look at what they mean and how they're composed. So you can see from all different ages and types. Next slide. So this is one example. This is the St. Mary of the Virgin door, loaded with symbolism, which I won't go into now, but it's also a composition. And so we unpick a series of buildings and show how they're built up into a composition.
And then the next slide is the students that can draw then get to draw a series of designs. They're based on some plans which we've done in advance. They get a couple of days to do this, not that long. And you can see in the top, we can actually make some of these designs into streets, into a street elevation. I won't go into it, but all of these buildings, not only are they compositions, obviously, but they also are loaded with particular meaning which the students have put on them. We also get a lecture from Craig Hamilton and one on symbolism from Nicholas Temple. It's as I say, second year, good feedback, and I hope it will carry on for many years. I think the issue, basically, other than composition, anyone who knows that they're dealing with classical design has to compose it. But I think symbolism is an interesting one, but on the basic principle that everything means more than its basic existential existence. And I think it's a very fruitful field. So hopefully we'll carry on for future years. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. That was great. Very clear, concise, to the point. We've got it. And over to the next one, where we're in Australia.
Thanks, Mark, and good morning from a very early morning in Australia. My name's Alex DOWTHWAITE, and in addition to my work with INTBAU Australia, I also chair the INTBAU Education Committee, many of whose members are on the call today. So the Enduring Design Masterclass, so it's our Antipodean answer to all these brilliant summer schools on the other side of the globe, except we hold ours in the winter, as we prefer our students not to die of heat stroke while they're lugging bricks or stone carving or whatever the case may be. So begun back in 2020 as a partnership between the then Prince's Trust Australia, INTBAU Australia and the University of Queensland. The program offers architecture students a completely unique opportunity in Australia to reconnect with traditional design and trade skills with a focus on our traditions of building. So unlike other summer schools, what makes this program unique is that it's a fully accredited subject as part of a Master of Architecture or postgraduate degree, which is a necessary part of the studies of those looking to become registered architects in Australia. Next slide, please. So Australia is home to a very broad range of architectural traditions, from European, subcontinental and regional influences to Aboriginal Australian practices. This program exposes students to the full umbrella of all those traditional building techniques, from stonemasonry, bricklaying, carpentry, to the fundamentals of classical architecture, and also uniquely delves into Aboriginal Australian traditions, with the students constructing shelters using ancient practices and using local materials gathered out in the bush. And this is a very practical experience indeed, as I can attest, having been eaten alive by stinging green ants while trying to gather some of these materials out of the bush with for some of the less intrepid students. Next slide, please. In the masterclass, students not only explore the theory behind architecture, but also engage in the physical act of building. They're taught to use tools like chisels and hammers, skills totally unfamiliar to most architecture students who spend most of their time looking at Autodesk software. So this hands-on experience allows students to create tangible objects like stone moldings, mortise and tenon joins, all sorts of things, and as well as drawing everything from the nude figure to the classical orders. Next slide, please. So Australia itself is a country of great variation and regional diversity. So from the traditional trades and global traditions which built our great towns and cities to the unique techniques that have withstood the harsh Australian environment for many thousands of years, Australia offers a really wide range of architectural solutions that we should be learning from today. And so the Enduring Design Masterclass is the first program in some generations to fully embrace this traditional knowledge and try and equip students with the knowledge and expertise to carry these traditions forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. That's great. Perfectly on time. Absolutely brilliant. And I like the title, Enduring Design.
Yes. Next one is Nadia Samir.
Hello, good evening, everyone, and thank you for your time. INTBAU Mexico is run by the Board of Mexico, the council members, and a group of volunteers. This is the second year we organize the summer school. And the program is based on the study of vernacular and traditional architecture and urbanism, integrating the pre-Hispanic vision and the study. Next, please. It is a 2-week program with 20 students divided on site visits to the downtown of a traditional town known as Magical Towns in Mexico for the characteristics that are unique. We visit the main buildings, the plazas, the pre-Hispanic temples, where we sketch and measure some details to create an abaco to the town, to understand the character, the typology, the armature, and the landscape of the existing site. The Yucatan Summer School in 2024 was the first event we organized, and it was an invaluable experience for all of us, for the students, for the professors, and the organizers. We visited, we have evenings with lectures with experts on the field, and this year we will add a studio analysis at the end of the day. We have on-site application workshops to learn Adobe and Bajareque, which is a technique from the area, and where other members of the community will also participate. The last week will be mostly dedicated to studio, where we will divide the group in 2 teams to develop a master plan for the market 20 de Noviembre, which is the main market of the city of Oaxaca, and it's in downtown. And this will be a response for the gentrification of the area and the uncontrolled tourism that have damaged the traditional buildings. We will have the site to the whole area, and this will involve the analysis of the Hispanic structures. And these are some drawings that the students developed last year in Yucatan. Many perspectives, we measure some details, we visit the temples of Mitla, Chichen Itza and Uxmal, and also cenote, which is it's a natural lake like in the area. And okay, the city agents and the preservation groups are aware of this project, and they will be part of this. We have a large group of professors that will be leading the studio, and we'll have visitors that will stay 2 or 3 days. At the end of the 2 weeks, we will have a public event with the community and the jurors that will review the proposal. These are some places that we will visit with the summer school this year. Is Mitla, Monte Albán, some museums and churches, and Culiacán de Guerrero, which is an old hacienda in the outskirts of the city. And Oaxaca is one of the cities with most significance, cultural significance of Mexico, for the colorful streets, the architecture, the food, the textile, the artisans, and the festivals we have. The Guelaguetza is a festival, one of the main festivals we have in Mexico, and it will happen a week after we finish the summer school. So I hope we have some of that as well. And these are some professors that will join us. The studio will be led by Ettore Mazzola and Jonathan Wetterill. And we will also have Esteban Martinez, Rodrigo Boyat, Edward McGrath, Maria Sanchez, Pedro Godoy, John Oniango, Juan José Santibáñez, Isis Juárez, Norma Huerta, that are Mexican traditional architects, and as well Marcos Sanchez and Gabriela Carrillo at the end. So these are. Thank you so much. If anybody has any question.
We will have
Thank you very much.
Questions later.
Yes, we'll have no questions just now. That should be the rule for everyone. So yes,
Thomas, please.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Thomas, please, when you want the slide to be changed, say next.
I'll do that. So my name is Thomas Fleming from INTBAU Norway. And this summer, INTBAU Norway will yet again organize a summer school in the countryside outside the town of Fredrikstad in Norway. So lectures will be given in this old building, and here 20 students will be given lectures in traditional architecture, crafts, and urban design. And this is the same building as all the students will be sleeping, eating, and of course swimming in the swimming pool. Classes will be held by Professor in Architecture Branko Mitrovic. He is the most famous Norwegian classical architecture professor. Well, actually, he's the only classical architectural professor in Norway at the moment. And he will be joined by Professor in Urban Design History, Thomas Jelensky from the University of Krakow. Next slide, please. Next. So these previous. Perfect. So these are just some of the impressive watercolor renderings produced by our students last year as part of their assignment to create infill projects for the old fortified town of Fredrikstad. You can also see a pergola that we also built during last year's summer school. And the students will yet again be able to build a pergola. Please, next slide. And now I will hand the word over to Arne Sødal of INTBAU Norway.
Okay, I'll just want to explain a little bit about the content of the summer school. We have the same sort of model as last year, where we have a mix of theory in the morning. We have some crafts work in the middle of the day, and we have project work in the afternoon. This time we are more ambitious. Last year it was more infill project in an old town. This year we want to do more urban design on a larger scale, but also design buildings that can fit into this traditional urban design project. Next slide. Because we have this excellent course of classical architecture in Trondheim by Branko, we want to fill in with planning urban design also, which is badly lacking in Norwegian teaching. And have some craft. We will do some wood craft work on this pavilion, but also do drawings and watercolor. So we cover a great range of topics. Our actual project this year is to do a proper urban design project. If you have the next slide. Robert Adam might remember that we had the summer school 20 years ago in Fredrikstad, and our project then was to design a new urban area in a shipyard that was closed down. It had just been closed down. After 20 years, half of it has been built in a very modern, not very nicely scaled project. So the second half of the shipyard, we will now propose an urban design scheme. And we hope that that will show that it can be done in a much better way and much more fitting to the architecture and the urban structure of Fredrikstad. So it's quite an ambitious project, and we also want to do building design, which fits into this plan. So this will be more ambitious than last year, so we are expanded from 6 to 9 days. And the students last year was very much from Norwegian universities. We had some foreign students, and we hope to get more foreign students to get this mix. And the teaching will be in English.
Thank you. Are you nearly finished, Arne? Because we are a bit over time.
Yeah, we're finished.
Excellent. Good. Thank you very much. So, no, that was very interesting. And so we now need to hear from Alex Kiss about the Brazilian Institute of Traditional Architecture Summer School, as we can see on the screen.
Hi, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks for having me, for having us. So So this was the first summer school ever in Brazil. It was organized by the IBAS group, which was based on the TAG, founded by Bruno Perenha in 2003. It lasted for 4 days in December 2024. And we had like about 100 architects involved. The traditional architecture is only in the very beginning of Brazil. The vast majority of Brazil's both architects and the public are unacquainted with the concept, because modernism has been the only game for over 70 years now. So it's very. So the objective of the summer school is to introduce Brazilians to traditional architecture. The summer school began with the launching of the Baluarte magazine, which is the first Brazilian publication on traditional architecture, which has several international contributors such as Steven Senes, James Stevens Curl, Nico Stalingaros, and many Brazilian scholars and architects. We had then several talks, including that of Pedro Maria Sanchez, that came from Guatemala, from Studio Urbano. They talked about the Sila Kayala to show the Brazilian architects in general that it is possible to do traditional architecture because they have never seen it or they don't know what it is in general. So for those who don't know, I assume everyone knows what Sila Kayala is. For those who don't know, it's a new neighborhood in Guatemala City that was designed with the help of Leon Clear in the traditional style. We had also the presence of someone from the south of Brazil, the south of Brazil, it's an area with heavy German presence where they still do like timber frame houses in the German style. The Germans call it Parkwerk, I believe. So I think that's kind of the little bits and pieces that we have about of traditional architecture that has been produced in Brazil recently. So that was very good. We had talk about other architects showing their experience with traditional architecture, but it's very incipient. We had workshops introducing classical orders to the students. We had workshops introducing stone carving to the students. The students were taken to around Sao Paulo to see like traditional buildings or what's left of them, like secular buildings, religious buildings. And so this is it. The summer school is very general because people still have to get their head around what traditional architecture is. So common division is vernacular, traditional classicists are not there yet. People are trying to figure out what it is to build in a classical style. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much what it was.
Excellent.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
You take you're within time, Alex. So if you need something else,
so I'll say something else then. We'll have another event in Sao Paulo in 2025. It's going to be the second one. It's in Sao Paulo because Brazil is a very large country, and as you probably know, and it's very hard to get everyone together. So we have to choose the main hubs of Brazil, which are Sao Paulo and Rio, where the place we're going to have, like in the next one, we're going to have José Barganha already confirmed as a presence. And it will be, probably we will invest more time in doing like workshops and teaching people how to do traditional architecture than in talks and things like that. And yes, I guess that's what I had to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alex. And now we'll move on. I think we saw it, a brief glimpse to Qatar. We saw, yes, on the screen already. And this is, I hope the pronunciation isn't too far off, Zainab Iqbal.
Thank you, and thanks for the invitation. It's lovely to see so many people come together. It's almost 10 p.m. actually in Doha. I hope I can do justice to our wonderful INTBAU Qatar Winter School. It's the first in Qatar. INTBAU Qatar was set up actually 2022. So this was our first winter school because of the climate that we have. We can't actually have a summer school. So the setting was the Henad Salma farm. That's where our office is based. It's a very special kind of setup. It's a functioning farm, but at the same time, it's a kind of multifaceted project of the Caravan Earth Foundation, dedicated to regenerative agriculture, education and cultural initiatives, traditional architecture and community development. So we can go to the next slide. And we have a textile studio, woodwork shop. We have farmers in the morning just working. You see them working in the farm, and that was the kind of setup that students had, and they actually joined the farmers in the morning, or planting seeds, all these kind of activities. In one side, it was an agricultural activity related to our title of our winter school, which was architecture, tradition, and ecology. We were trying to cover each part of this. And when we talk about tradition, in the case of Qatar, we have to consider the wider region, the Arab region tradition. So the traditional kind of Arab domestic architecture. And for that, we had a really lovely book collection. And we had a setup, here you see the setup that we had a kind of working area within the farm, but also we had a kind of a book reading and working area as well separately. The core of the course, the program was actually the design studio where students had to work. They had 2 weeks to develop a kind of vision for the Henat Salma village. It's a kind of master planning vision. But we also had workshops. I think it's the next slide. We had workshops with stonemasons and also mud brick workers to build herbal spirals and combine it again with our agricultural team, with the farmers on site. So students had the opportunity to work with the stonemasons, learn how to chip the stone, start from scratch, and they designed the herbal spiral, etc. And we had 4 faculty members, key faculty members, and they all had specific areas of specialty. And one of them was, for example, permaculture, landscaping and regenerative design. Another one focused on the kind of traditional mosque design, which was a part of the village. I'm just trying to summarize this. There is a lot to say, actually. And we had some site visits to the city. And also farm tours to understand the kind of systems in the farm, and sketching sessions. The next slide, please. The last day was actually the exhibition open to public. There was a great interest, actually. A lot of people from different backgrounds came to see the exhibition. And we had 3 podcasts produced. All of them are published now and available online. And 1 documentary is on the way to be published. You can find them all in our Caravan Earth Foundation YouTube link and our social media accounts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was, like all the presentation, fantastic. So we've obviously going to Finland now, and we have Mario who's going to, over to you.
Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Marjo Uotila. I represent INTBAU Finland here, and I must say I'm so happy to be able to join such a network of like-minded people all over the world. So this is a fantastic time for all of us and for our great objectives in this world. So we are doing the summer school in Finland for the first time this year. And I joined the INTBAU incubator program in Utrecht and Bruges last summer. And I was so impressed by the fantastic work done there, as will be done there next summer as well. So I'm hoping we could get some best practices to our context, which is, of course, quite different from any others. We are located in a historic Pukkila manor in the city of Kaarina, where I live. And for those of you who might not know where the city of Kaarina is, we are located in the historic area in Finland, quite close to the city of Turku, that used to be the historic capital, and with historic connections to the Stockholm region and basically to the Nordic architectural traditions as well. So, and this is also we are at the heart of Finnish countryside. a historic manor region. So we'll be able to see many historic buildings in the Finnish, dating to the Finnish history. Also well connected to the international airports and train stations. We'll be able to learn about Finnish vernacular, timber vernacular, to be more precise. And also we can go to the next slide, because those of you who can use the RFID code there, you can have direct access to our website, to the summer school website for all the details. But we will have a 1-week course in August. Course language will be English, and we are expecting to have 15 students. And the most important thing will be motivation to learn. No previous education is required at this point, so we are looking forward to a very motivated group of people. And we are focusing on hand drawing, and not so much on urbanism, but basically traditional architectural principles and how to apply them in new work. Our deadline will be at the end of April, and we can move on to the next slide, please. Perfect. I suppose that was basically all. And thank you for attention, and I look forward to receiving many applications. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mario. They're all very clear, and you've got all the information there. And
Perfect.
now we're going to go a little bit south. We're going to go to Germany, Berlin, and Potsdam. So over to Bart.
Thank you so much. Hi from Berlin. I'm Bart Urban. And as we see here, our global community is super excited to see all those wonderful new summer schools around the world. And at INTBAU Germany, we had this question in mind, okay, now that we have so many options, how can we make the biggest positive impact for the classical community in the shortest amount of time here in Germany? And this is what we came up with. Next slide, please. We thought, okay, the Meisterhaus of the Bauhaus is like the symbol, the pedestal of modernism. And now it's time to create the new Meisterhaus. Bauhaus had its shot at this, and now it's time for ours. Next slide, please. Welcome to the Meisterhaus Academy in Potsdam in September 2025. Let us masterfully apply classical architecture. Imagine a week where you work alongside the most talented students and planners of classical architecture and traditional urbanism. This will be a week where you refine your skills, collaborate with top experts, and develop designs that are not just theoretical, but truly buildable. Next slide, please. This will be the new master houses, a timeless design for the 21st century. What will we do? We will design the INTBAU master houses, a small number of townhouses and timeless practical building types, including mixed-use urban buildings. These are not just for the museum, galleries, or the drawer, as so many experiments in architecture schools are nowadays. These house types are meant to be built, to be adapted, to inspire, and to prove that classical architecture is fully relevant today. We'll explore different levels of classical facades, from simple elegance to medium and rich ornamentation. So you'll learn how to adapt traditional designs to different budgets and contexts. And beyond that, we can develop a new architectural style, one that respects tradition, but feels fresh and original for the 21st century. Next slide, please. And with the real world impact, it's more than an exercise. We are working towards real projects. Investors, developers, and officials will be watching. Some will even be part of the jury. So if you want to be part of something meaningful, if you want to push your skills, collaborate collaborate with like-minded designers, and shape the future of classical architecture, this is your chance. The applications will be competitive. If you're ready, sign up for the waitlist today and take the first step toward a career that makes a difference. Last slide, please. You can scan this QR code now to fill in the form and join us for this new type of summer school. It takes you about 30 seconds and you will get notified when there's any new information coming up. We are super excited to this and very much looking forward to see you in Potsdam and Berlin. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Bart. It's good to see the new technology fusing with the old traditions. So thank you for that. And we're now going to go, over across the Atlantic to South Carolina, as you could see, and Charleston. So yes, over to you. It's Will and Christine together. I don't know in what sequence.
Yes, I'm going to start and then Will is going to follow. Greetings, everyone. I'm Christine Frank. It is just afternoon here in Denver, Colorado. I'm the chair of INTBAU USA. And over the past year, we've been working very closely together with City Makers Collective, a new organization here in the United States, to plan Summer Studio 2025. This will be the first INTBAU USA affiliated summer school in the United States. The new school, to be held in Charleston, South Carolina this July, when it will be quite hot, primarily focusing on urbanism and the art of city making, is going to be a very fine complement to the now 34-year-old summer school of the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art, as well as joining a number of other recent summer schools in the United States, focusing primarily on classical architecture and some on traditional building skills. I'm going to turn it over now to Will McCollum of City Makers Collective, and Will is going to talk a little bit about the details of the summer program and what students might be able to expect. Will, over to you.
Thanks, Christine. Next slide. So as Christine mentioned, students will spend 2 weeks in one of the few American cities that is full of preserved urbanism and architecture, which is Charleston, South Carolina. During this program, students will work on designing a 70-acre or 28-hectare redevelopment site along the Cooper River. We'll be exploring design at all scales within the site, designing by hand, the urban spaces and buildings that frame them. The studio itself will be bolstered by lectures, drawing analysis, and site visits. And the students will learn from some of the best thinkers and practitioners around the country in architecture and urbanism. We have a really great cohort of lecturers and speakers that we've been able to pull together. At the end of the 2 weeks, students will present their work to a jury of local leaders and design professionals. Will be hosted by the College of Charleston, which is in the center of the historic district. And students throughout the program will have access to the rare books library of the American College of the Building Arts, which is a really phenomenal local university there. Next slide, please. So each day we'll have a different topic that we'll explore through urban walks and exploration, lectures, the design studio, and then a culminating symposia each evening. As Christine mentioned before, in the US, we have a handful of very well-established organizations and schools already teaching various aspects of design traditions. So we're viewing this studio as more of a generalist studio where we want to ground students in the principles of making resilient, prosperous, and beautiful places while introducing the industry itself to make the changes we want to see in our communities. So next slide, please.
Because time is a bit short, if you could, Will, if you carry on. Here we are.
Sure. Really to put on this summer school, after I attended the INTBAU Netherlands summer school you heard. To teach how to build these places and actually how to get it done.
chapters and summer schools going on here. Thank you.
Thank you very with lots of other historic towns like Savannah and so on. So we have actually, when I said at the beginning, we have 15 summer schools, and then I said, I think as well, that there's probably more out there that we don't yet know of. Well, actually, somehow I think a 16th arrived in the course of today. So here we have the Austrian summer school, and so we're going to hear from Robert.
Hello.
Robert Krasser.
Hello, yes, my name is Robert Krasser from Austria. I'm the INTBAU founder in Austria as well. And we already will do our second summer school this summer in August. And it is a very special summer school. It is how to plan a city of human scale. And we focus on how to do it with Christopher Alexander's A Pattern Language. Please, the next slide. In the last year, we had the summer school in July. There were 32 students. The program was free, and it was a collaboration between the Pattern Institute and INTBAU Austria. It was an overall success. We focused on the patterns from Christopher Alexander, and this year we will do some improvements. We will do a little bit less lectures because the students want to have more practical work, yeah? And I think we will not accept 35 students. We will only limit it by 25, yeah? And we will ask for a motivation letter as well. Please, the next slide. In brief, as I also already said, human scale architecture or urbanism, you can achieve with a pattern language by Christopher Alexander and the new pattern language by Michael Mahaffey. So we will teach those planning methods to achieve it, yeah? And this will be only a 4 days summer academy. Please, the next slide. Because it's quite easy, it's a systematic approach to pattern language with easy to understand, and then you can achieve quite in a short time beautiful results like you can see here on the right side in Laplace's Robinson. You can also find all the patterns in the patternlanguage.wiki site. Thank you. The next one, please. Yeah, most likely it's still to be confirmed. The summer school will be from the 26th to the 29th of August. We will take about 30 students. The participation will be free. We are asking just for a motivation letter. Please check the INTBAU website, INTBAU Austria website, which is based on the real INTBAU website chapter, to check for the updates. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robert. That was perfect on time and just a few seconds short. So we are now going over to a new, well, a slightly different section, which Georgia is going to take over and introduce, but effectively we're shifting more from design to making. And what I can say to add to what Georgia is going to say is, because of time, it's inevitable that we've already gone beyond the notional time zone of the first section. So if you can keep it crisp, that would be much appreciated. So over to you, Georgia. I will try to.
So we are moving now towards our next slideshow, which we would like to present you a selection of hands-on programs focused on traditional building construction techniques. We are aware that this presentation is not comprehensive and that there are a lot of more other programs of this sort, and many of them connected mostly to conservation works. We apologize to all of the other similar workshops existing worldwide, but not covered here. Our selection of workshops presents a few which are more oriented into carrying the traditional building techniques into the future, meaning that the traditional building techniques are intended to be preserved and used not only for conservation works, but for new build in traditional manner. Most of the workshops we are presenting are also linked to the associations running the summer schools that we already presented, or are cooperating to some degree with INTBAU within their educational programs. Conservation projects and the recording of the existing traditional buildings can contribute a lot to the regeneration of traditional practices that have been lost or on the verge of extinctions. As the late François Chouet said, we restore in order to recapture our competence to build. I would like now to start the presentation with a very special school or experimental workshop that they are recovering all traditional building techniques to build new structures sitting with one leg on the past and the other on the future, while also perfectly linking the conservation and new build in traditional manner. Tradition, it's anything else than stale or static there. So I would like to introduce you the School of Bunești, which some of you already know and love, because we all know that in 2024, the school's project and concept won the grand prize of the Philippe Rotier Awards for Vernacular Architecture. So Ana Maria, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you, everyone, for having us as a new entry. Indeed, Școala de la Bunești, the School of Bunești, is 70 years already old. I would rather say young project. It's a community of architects, including students, of course, craftsmen, visual artists, but also historians, philosophers, and philologists within a wild meadow in the middle of a forest. Next slide, please. Our project proposes an educational alternative that is about building ourselves, our own school, in a remote place from tabula rasa, using our brains and hands, using only natural local materials and timeless structural principles. So it is, for the time being, a laboratory of vernacular architecture in terms of 12 mock-ups, one-to-one scale models, aiming to accommodate as soon as possible, a great books college. Because for us, reading and building are the sides of the same coin. I would say both lost crafts of survival. And you can see here the sketches, the hand drawings of the 12 attempts. It's a summer kitchen in wood, in a timber frame. It's a winter kitchen in stone masonry. It's a student's dormitory in adobe masonry. It's a technical room out of earth bags construction. It's a cisterna, or guest house, which is a floating timber structure, and hempcrete. Next slide, please. Next, please. Yes, it's a totally, no, the previous one. Yeah, thank you. The other one with the timber structure in the middle of the meadow. This one, thank you. What we're trying to do this year, because we are a 100% hands-on experience, is to complete the existing structures. And first of all, the so-called professor's house, or the school itself, which is this timber core that you see here in this picture, is located in the middle of the site, and it's a square 9 per 9 meters. We intend to enclose into a masonry wall this summer on stone foundation and adobe mortar. And In this respect, I am looking at the most important historical buildings in the area, like this church that you see here. It's a Byzantine kind of type of masonry, mixing finished cut stone and brick. And in this picture, you also can see detail of the Great Lavra in Mount Athos. But both these images refer to the same structural principle, which is this very special masonry, mixing ceramic bricks patterns with stone sometimes, or wooden ties, which is something typical for the seismic areas. In our case, what I'm trying to do is to invent or to shape this kind of principle in contemporary architectural terms today, trying to, next slide, please, trying to invent a new ceramic brick. There must be another one with a trapeza, with a brick vault, and ceramic, this one, yes. Thank you. You can see here my invention, if you allow me to call it like this, is this ceramic block, the size and the weight of an adobe piece. So something about 60 centimeters and 14 kilos that we plan to use in order to invent or to reinvent this structural masonry mixed with wooden oak ties. And if we go back to the previous slide, we see the structure of this year in 6 different series. The early one, the first one, is not far from us, is in April, when we plan to experience some natural thermal insulation with clay and moss and vegetal fibers in order to complete the existing shower pavilion. And then there are other different series. One series means 1 week in July and August. Most of them dedicated to this innovative old masonry. And another one, a very special one, Georgia will tell you more about it, will give you more details, is workshop of pargeting in August. And of course,
probably an internet problem. Anna, you are frozen now.
To country areas to make hand drawings and sometimes measured drawings, but also to enjoy some theoretical historical lectures that we give on site to these monuments nearby. Thank you, and you are most welcome. The applications are open. You can register now. I will leave you the data, all the links into the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. And the next will be Alejandro again, presenting some of their workshops very briefly.
Hi again. About the training and educational programs that we have on traditional building trades and techniques, we have 2 types of educational programs. We have professional training that we offer yearly, and this is done through apprenticeships for people interested in continuing the practice of a trade. And these programs are 6 months or 1 year, it depends. And these are open to all applicants. And the apprentice is selected by the very master that we are supporting that year, or the very masters that we are supporting that year. And they try to cover especially trades which are on the brink of disappearing in Spain. And then apart from this professional training, we also have educational programs on traditional building techniques, which are are designed more as an introduction to the knowledge of specific crafts. Next, please. And these workshops happen all over the year. We normally have like 10 or 12 a year, and they are normally brief introductions to particular trades. We also have a long collaboration with other entities to do longer hands-on workshops, such as those by Terrachidia, which we have been running in Morocco for a number of years already, and which are mainly dealing with traditional earth construction. And these programs, I cannot announce specific calls because they normally come on the way, but those of Terrachidia, you can take a look on the Terrachidia website. There are 3 planned for this year. There's 1 ongoing now and 2 more, which are going to happen this year. And those organized by us, you could take a look at the Traditional Building Cultures Foundation, and if you are subscribed to the news, you will have calls for this kind of activities.
Thank you. Nadia, it's next. She is preparing 2 workshops this summer.
Thank you, Georgia. Yes, and so we used to do craft workshop during both summer school, but we decide also to create new workshops that are independent to the summer school. Primitive architecture is no different from craftsmanship. Primitive architecture means stone carving, masonry, carpentry, and roofing. Architecture was born in the realm of manual trades. The very etymology of the word architect goes back to the Greek tekton, meaning carpenter or builder, for in many ways, the architect is the first of the carpenter, the first among carpenters. If architecture was able to break away from the manual trades and become a discipline in its own right, it was only because the technical means and knowledge required to practice the crafts had become so vast and complex in buildings of a certain size that it was necessary for an architect to coordinate all the trades working on a site. In the beginning, the architect was nothing more than a coordinator. So to come to the point, through the organization of several craft workshops, our association wants to ensure that architecture reconnects with its original vocation and that it draws closer to the manual trades from which it stems. That is why this year we are organizing 2 training courses in the Belgian Vlaanders, one which is carpentry and the other one is ironwork. Most certainly during the second half of the year, we will also have, like we do every year, workshop in stone carving in the French part of Belgium, so Wallonia. All those workshops are given in English, but also in French and Dutch. I mean, they speak those 3 languages. The first carpentry workshop will take place from June 9 to June 13 with the great carpenter Dirk Mortier. Dirk specialized in traditional green oak carpentry and mainly builds rural structures such as cottages and barns. Under his guidance, workshop participants will learn the stage of the carpenter profession, from the drawing board to the erection of a structure. A second carpentry workshop with Dirk Mortier will certainly be organized in August of this year. And as for the ironwork workshop, it will also take place in the Belgian Vlaanders from August 18 to August 22 among the blacksmiths of the Dujardin Ironwork. They are a team of 3 master blacksmiths who work with different variety of metal in the traditional way. During the 4-day course, students will be immersed in the reality of the forge. The techniques and tools will have the opportunity to get hands-on with their first piece of forged metal. Everything I'm saying now, you can find all those information and more on our website, and I will share the link in the chat. As I see there is many links for those listening, I think this is quite useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia, very much. Yes, so we would like to see also Alejandro's links if possible. It's easier to pick them from the chat rather than if you can go back to the previous. That's fantastic. So this is the workshop that Ana Maria was mentioning. In one of the weeks, we tried to organize INTBAU Romania, for which I am acting as the education and project manager. We tried to organize with Școala de la Bunești an introduction to pargeting. Pargeting is the name of the Italian technique stucco, or as we call it in Romanian, stuc. And it was imported to England by Henry VIII. And now we would like to export a pargeter to revive this old traditional technique in Romania, because as we can see in those illustrations, we used to have it, especially in the late 17th century and beginning of 18th century. We have a fantastic church, Fundenii Doamnei, where we have those decoration of Persian inspiration. We also have this stuc on some palaces or rich manor houses, and you can find it also in the Saxon area where you have decorated pediments. So it's practically a widespread European techniques. So this will be one of the week of the Școala de la Bunești, and international students are very welcome. So if you want to apply, we will launch soon the link for this too. So we can go further now. Thank you very much. Next slide, Edward. So in this section, we are starting to talk about the summer incubator, and I will pass on to Mark that he will be leading this section. I'm sorry we jump over the discussion about the crafts. If you want, we can still have it. Alejandro and Nadia, what do you think? Should we have the open discussion?
Maybe if we have time at the end, yes.
At the end, you would like to have
if we have time, yes.
Okay, good. So we are jumping to the incubator now.
Yeah, yes, I think that's a good idea, just simply because, I mean, I think hopefully everyone would understand that it's quite a long evening, or it'll be not an evening for a few people. But I mean, we just have so much to discuss and to witness, and I think register. Some of us will just be just taking it in, and other people, of course, will know about a lot of these things and will be wanting to discuss finer points. But I think the incubator issue is kind of quite interesting, because that was a new event that was, I think, spontaneously created so as to advance discussion about some of the summer schools. So I mean, it was actually Georgia handing me over to me is maybe the wrong way to do it, because Georgia was there and I wasn't. So really, I think it's
yes,
best.
I can take it back.
So. Yeah, you take the ball back, Georgia.
Yes.
And then,
so
yeah.
I take it, but just for a moment, because practically I will ask Margot Dryson, the INTBAU Network and Project Manager, to present this INTBAU incubator, because you heard about it during this presentation. Mario mentioned it, how impressed she was about it, but no one explained what that was. So if Margot would like to present this to understand what we learned there and who participated and what was the outcome. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Georgia, for having me speak about the incubator. Unfortunately, Alex Lamont-Bishop couldn't join us this evening. So in August 2024, INTBAU hosted the Summer School Incubator, and it was basically to support INTBAU chapters wishing to develop their educational programs in traditional architecture, urbanism, and building. It brought together representatives from 7 INTBAU chapters: Australia, Austria, Brazil, Finland, Germany, Qatar, and Romania. And over 6 days, the group traveled between the Netherlands and Belgium to meet INTBAU chapters that were and are successfully delivering summer schools. So we first joined the final periods of INTBAU Netherlands, Let's Build a Beautiful City in Utrecht. And then we visited La Table Ronde de l'Architecture or INTBAU Belgium to learn about the Bruges and Alsace Summer School of Architecture and Crafts 2024. Next slides, please. So the incubator got under the skin of what is needed to plan and run a summer school. We dived into the practicalities and realities of building and sustaining a week or more long INTBAU education program. So we discussed all forms of topics, but that included budgeting and finances, marketing, logistics and accommodation, and curriculum design. The incubator was also an opportunity to strengthen the network and the connections between chapter delegates, students, alumni, and professionals within and outside the network, so architects, professors, critics, and so on. Additionally, it offered a platform for INTBAU delegates and also summer school organizers to exchange best practices, discuss challenges, and explore solutions, helping expand INTBAU's education offering worldwide. Next slide. So some of the topics discussed, including ongoing challenges and conversations, collaboration as opposed to competition. And then another example, which is also what you see on the screen, was how to define an INTBAU summer school, all the while maintaining and celebrating the diversity in the various curriculums on offer. So this was an exercise that we did, and what you're seeing now was just sort of it came from the exercise and it's sort of a working document of ideas. But it was basically questioning and discussing if there should be a set of criteria to define a chapter's seasonal education program as an INTBAU summer school as a way to assert basically quality over time. So just some examples of criteria were offering a mix of theory and practical classes, making sure there were tangible outputs in discussion. Thinking about insurance was something that we talked about, and another good example was making sure the curriculum reflected the place, so the location, thinking about the culture, the history, and that they were related. Last slides. So the feedback of the incubator was positive and enthusiastic, it highlighting sort of how it was extensive in terms of the topics that we covered, but also specific in terms of the questions and challenges that it addressed. So we tried to, I think most who joined could agree that we didn't gloss on the sort of more challenging aspects of running the summer school. There was also a big appreciation for the community building it fostered, so between the chapters themselves, but also the delegates and students, alumni, and just all the other participants on both programs. And then it also allows chapters to see firsthand how large the sort of the traditional architecture network is. I think that was something that came from feedback. And then excitingly, as a last point, most chapters who attended the incubator have successfully developed plans or are developing plans to establish a formal summer school. Thank you. I think Alex Douthwaite, I don't know if we have time, but he has some feedback. I don't know if he wants to add something.
Well, Alex is going next anyway. So, Alex, if you take up that point, if you like, or just carry on with your own presentation and we can come back to it.
Yeah, sure, Margot, and sure, Mark. Yeah, so no, the INTBAU Education Incubator was a fantastic program. So, yeah, launched by the Secretariat. Yeah, gathered INTBAU chapters. We toured around. We looked at NADIA's summer school We looked at the summer school in the Netherlands, and it was an incredible program. It was I think there's now 4 summer schools that are emerging as a result of that program. And yeah, really, we managed to flesh out a lot of the issues that face INTBAU summer schools. I think I can speak for everyone on the call when I say that it's been incredible over the last few years to see the massive growth in interest from students all around the world in these programs. All programs are heavily oversubscribed and have long wait lists. So there's certainly an emerging demand from the younger generation, particularly looking for sort of alternatives to what they're being offered in their sort of more mainstream architectural educations. And it might just bring me on to the next point, which is one of the issues we discussed at the incubator was the question, the thorny issue of accreditation. It's a subject that the INTBAU Education Committee has opined on a number of times, and long story short, accreditation can be sort of both a shot of steroids for summer schools, but it can also be a bit of a poison chalice. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, if that's not too many metaphors. So it can give summer schools a really incredible range of resources. It can give them facilities, access to university tutors, and allow students to take time out of their studies and have their summer school experience actually contribute to their registration as architects or otherwise. However, it also comes with this sort of necessary loss of independence. The INTBAU summer schools were created largely as a reaction against some of the sort of mainstream trends in education. And there's also a need to align with the specific learning outcomes and sort of core competencies of the academic system as it is. So what we basically come down to is that accreditation is not for everyone or for every summer school indeed. However, the collected experience of the INTBAU Education Committee and all the chapters that run summer schools, it's basically able to assist any summer school that wants to seize that nettle and seek accreditation for its program. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic program, Margot. And yeah, that's me.
Thank you very much, Alex. We have next Noe, who will tell us a bit of their own future plans, because this is also a problem. You go to the summer school, you enjoy it very much, but what are we doing next? The students are asking, what can we do after a summer school to continue the education? Or from the teacher points of view, is this good? Is this functioning? Do we want to keep the structure as we did it? Do we want to change it? So the summer schools are some very flexible structures, and that's the good point of not being accredited and have freedom. You can adjust it if you necessarily think it be. So Noe, can you tell us a bit about this? How you see your school evolving, and what can you offer the students after they finish?
Thank you, Georgia. Thank you, for, Margot and Alex, for summing up the main conclusions of the incubator. And I'll bounce back on a few elements you've mentioned regarding accreditation. But start by saying that for the time being, the summer schools that exist and are multiplying in Europe and abroad are the result of spontaneous private initiatives. So for the most part, summer schools do not enjoy official status or university recognition. That, though, hasn't stopped them from continuing to grow. So first conclusion, the summer school model as it exists today, without diploma or official recognition, is a considerable success. This is because for the time being, our summer schools act as complement to the faculties of architecture. Students graduate via the normal university route, and they acquire specialized skills through our summer schools. As for the rest of our students, they are either already professionals or very young and not yet at university. In this case, our summer schools act as educational and career guidance platforms for individuals looking to change careers or to find career path. So the question is, if we want to go further and replace the normal university route by becoming a fully fledged university, How do we go about it? In my opinion, in our opinion, there are three ways of achieving it. First is to open a traditional architecture department within an existing university. This presupposes a good relationship with the teaching staff and compliance with the national curriculum. Second solution is to set up a private school with official diploma recognition. The problem with this model lies in the cost of the initial investment and the cumbersome administrative procedures that are required for official recognition of the diploma even before being able to open the school. Finally, the third option is to open a private school that is not recognized by the state and therefore cannot lead to an architectural diploma. Students trained in this school would be very skilled, but they would be unable to call themselves architects. This is obviously a problem, but not as serious as you might think. In Belgium and France, a large proportion of professionals working in the architectural sector do not hold architect's degree. Many of these architects without a degree have nothing stopping them from working in an architectural office. As far as I know, Léon Krier is not officially an architect, and that hasn't stopped him from becoming one of the best builders of his generation. So it seems that, although important, official recognition of the diploma is not an absolute prerequisite for founding a new school. Secondly, if the school is successful, recognition of its diploma becomes easier. So I will end here by adding that our association, as Georgia mentioned, is moving towards an hybrid model of permanent school. So like our Romanian friends at Școala de la Bunești, we intend to set up a permanent school in France, which would be open half of the year for courses of 2 to 4 weeks. And these courses could each accommodate a team of 15 students, enabling us to reach a very large audience of over 100 students per year. These students would receive education in architecture, craftsmanship, history, and philosophy. Students would be able to take several courses per year, enabling them to achieve a much higher level of specialization than it is possible today through our summer schools. So yes, I will perhaps finish here because we are running out of time, and I'm happy to discuss this later on.
Thank you very much, Noe. And now we have another question to which all the students would like to have an answer. What can you do to maintain learning in between summer schools? And for this, we have Pablo Funes, who is our TAG education officer, but also has been a teacher to several summer schools. And he developed several strategies of keeping the students busy during the gap in between the summer schools. Pablo, please.
Thank you very much, Georgia. Can we go to the next slide, please? So basically, as Georgia was saying, and now what do we do after a summer school? And this is something that I have been working around for a while, and we wanted to develop learning resources that are available for everyone all year round. And instead of being on a physical location, they would be in a virtual location so that all the people who have been meeting in the summer schools, they can gather together and they can carry on increasing the knowledge and sharing the knowledge and their experience in a virtually friendly platform. Can we go to the next one? On that regard, I am going to talk about 5 initiatives that we are taking at the moment: the Classic Planning Academy, the Salon of Classical Architecture, which are two settled initiatives that have been working for a while now. There's Classic Planning Academy for several years, and the Salon of Classical Architecture for several months, and some new projects that we want to introduce, which is an intensive in-person course of classical architecture in London. It's a hands-on course on drawing. I will talk about it in a moment. We want to organize activities for the younger cohort, and by younger, we mean like high school and children, so that they can get introduced and get a value on this beautiful architecture that we all share together and our common legacy of architecture, and also to train clients, potential future clients. And finally, a mentorship program, which my colleague Edward is going to talk about. Next, please. So the Classic Planning Academy is a division of the Classic Planning Institute. Many of you have heard about Dr. Nirburas, who is my colleague. And we develop programs. Can we go to the next one, please? We develop programs and we developed online talks. We have every week, there is a free online talk through Eventbrite with by Neil Buras, and every 2 weeks there is a free Eventbrite talk by myself. Here you have the 4 topics until the summer, and we normally change them every so often. So you have now a general one on architectural literacy, learn how to draw classical architecture, introduction to Islamic architecture, which by the way, there is a class tomorrow in case you want to join, and classic planning and neuroscience. Next one, please. So those ones are for free, and anyone is invited to come and attend as far as you register for Eventbrite, or you write me to get the link. Regarding the Classic Planning Academy, we offer two-year programs, first year and second year. The name is very obvious. The first year is focused on architectural literacy and classic planning basics. The second year is based on history of architecture, professional intersections, and design workshops. These programs are taught online. So we get people from all over the world. This year we have 14 people from all over the world, and we teach every Thursday from 5 to 10. I mean, we invite people from all over the world. A lot of the people who are here having already invited to our classes, and many of you will be invited, will continue to be invited because we love having you in our classes. Next one, please. These are some images of what we do. I mean, the class is recorded online with a webcam. The students see in this case see me drawing and drafting them, the orders from them, and then they draw in their houses, and then we share the drawings. Next one, please. These are just some examples of what it is taught. So they learn all the elements of classical architecture. They learn how to draw the orders. They learn how to draw all the different elements, and then they move towards more complex stuff. Next one, please. Like porticos and pediments and much more, and then they will demonstrate. They will carry on demonstrating the knowledge always in classical architecture. The next initiative that we are having is the Salon of Classical Architecture, which a lot of people are aware of. It's a joint initiative between ourselves at the Classic Planning Academy and Álvaro Pérez from Escuela de Arquitectura Clásica in Spain, who basically convinced me to organize this. And it's a bi-weekly virtual gathering, to talk about topics on classical architecture. We started in autumn, a bit more informal and unstructured. Next one, please. And this year we're offering a 12-session program for completely for free for anyone to join, where we offer resources and tools in classical architecture. They are basically 1-hour lecture, and then anyone can bring their own projects for an evaluation, for a chat, or for a debate. They are all on Saturday afternoons. We will make a stop in summer so that everyone can attend the summer schools, and we will come back in September as a sort of free program available to everyone. Next one, please. Then, which is something that I am quite keen on organizing, the intensive in-person course in classical architecture, which we want to do it here in London or in any UK city that wants to offer. We are happy to do it. Will be 5 days, 10 hours per day. So it's a very intensive program. Can be 5 consecutive or non-consecutive days. We want to do it in London, but can be anywhere. Can be anywhere where we can organize with infrastructure and logistics. The course is a hands-on course. It's a drawing course to learn how to trace the orders and elements. It's basically what we do at the Classic Planning Academy, but concentrated and in person. There will be lectures on classical architecture by all our beloved leaders in the movement of classical architecture, so that the students can also benefit from the knowledge, not just drafting. And the course finishing designing a small gate, because in 5 days you don't have time to do more. And all the projects, all the designs will be exhibited at the end in the premise wherever we will be organizing it. Next one, please. And we're looking for a sponsor, so please reach to us, reach to Georgia, reach to Mark, reach to me, if you would be happy to participate and collaborate with this. We are looking for a sponsor who can offer their location or can offer anything that we will be very welcome to receive. Next one, please. Moving forward, we want also to offer activities for the younger cohort. This means that we will be offering them easy exercise to introduce people on classical architecture. it's younger cohort, but it can also be for any non-architect. Appreciate our heritage through drawing, which I think it's very important, the hand-eye brain connection, and also the appreciation of heritage through drawing, and also, last but not least, educate future clients, show them that this architecture is possible to design, to have, and then they can demand it in a future, basically giving everyone clients in long term. Next one, please. This is an example. I mean, a lot of you have done already this exercise with me or with other people, because this is a CPI exercise that we share with everyone. This is the typical thing that this young cohort will be doing. It's a short, quick exercise so that they don't get bored. And that's the overall idea, that you can have a fun session with younger people. They can learn about classical architecture and they can understand how it works. And next one, I think that there is another idea, which is the TAG, Traditional Architectural Mentorship Program, and I'm giving the work to my colleague Ed, who is the person who came with this wonderful idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pablo. I'm Edward Gillibrand. I'm TAG's Communication Officer. It's an idea we've been discussing. I put forward to our committee. We have over 36 student members, and we're keen to help them, guide them, especially after making, I think, a rather bold move in expressing interest in traditional architecture at a young age, and it can be quite daunting, even just to engage with TAG. So we want to help them discover the summer schools, as we've been talking about today, but also to link them with potential employers. And as I'm sure many of us are aware of, to help them through any challenges and hostilities that they might have at university, and to help them into the profession in some form or another. We're thinking of making this at the moment a one-on-one, potentially, where we get volunteers from our membership and link them with one of our student members. As our members are growing so much with the student group, maybe that isn't entirely possible. But if anyone has experience of something like this sort of system, we'd be much appreciated. And if any student members of TAG are on, do get in touch, and we want to support you and engage with you as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edward. Probably we will skip now the open discussions, and we will have them all in the end, because we have still a lot of other guests. And this time I really pass on to Mark, because he will chair the next section. And Mark, it's your field now.
Good. Right. Well, thank you very much for all of those interventions. And I think the interesting thing is that how diverse and how people are looking for different ways of trying to crack this huge problem that we're all facing, where we all believe that there's virtue and progress is possible in the realm of traditional and classical architecture and building and craft. And there's this feeling of being impeded and blocked and frustrated by let's say, I hate to use the word establishment, because if you use it in that sense, quite often you're a sort of conspiracy theorist or something like that. I mean, I'm in a way, as many of us are, will be perfectly established in some senses, being professors or members or senior practitioners, or may have their own practices. But it doesn't mean you can't question aspects of the establishment. And so we have this communal problem of these obstacles that would want to cut us out, in effect, but whereas we all feel we have things to offer. So it's incredible, these different activities, different initiatives, and different ways. And I doubt, I mean, we'll do our best, but I doubt it's possible to come up with, if you like, a solution. So I don't think, we're going to be able to say, the accreditation model can go like this, or summer school should be taught like this, or it's clearly a work in progress. So I think that is the overall spirit of what we're doing. But we have, in terms of what's going to happen next, I mean, I think it is important to keep in mind this whole question of accreditation and all that, because it is something that is a bit of an elephant in the room. Sorry if that's a very idiomatic expression for everyone. Some people, there's this big thing that although Noé was absolutely right in that you don't have to be an architect to practice. And actually in the United Kingdom as well, as Noé is mentioning the situation more in I think France and Belgium, there is a sort of general weakening in the way that the RIBA and the Architects Registration Board operate and if you like maintain their structures. And there are, we have Ben Pentreath's office that is now quite big. I mean, he's not here tonight, but maybe in the region of 40 people. Someone might correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 50 by now. And although but Ben himself is not a qualified architect, but then he, can employ and partner and collaborate with architects so that then if they need the title and they need things like indemnity insurance and all these things, this can happen. It doesn't necessarily mean that every individual has to be an architect. But we do appreciate that for young people particularly, this is a difficult problem as they don't quite know how life will pan out in decades' time. They will have their parents who may be helping them out with their housing and their fees and all kinds of things, who will be quite rightly concerned with these issues. So I think we can, we should just have hear Robert / Bob Adam on this for a second on accreditation, and then Ettore. And I would just say that one of the things that we probably won't have time to discuss, but I've been sort of reflecting on as we've been going through these different sessions, is that we have, in a sense, I don't think it's anything like a split, but we have people who are already, like Pablo in the last presentation, very much orientated towards classical architecture. Other people orientated towards tradition in a more vernacular sense and building and craft. And I think there are good conversations to be had about how there's actually a kind of implicit fusion. And I don't know, and I'm just putting this out there, I don't know if this is true for, say, contexts like India or Chinese architecture, something completely different. But I think one of the things about classical architecture that is a very strong virtue is that there is a sort of graceful slide into the vernacular and back again of polite architecture and vernacular, which is not actually at all oppositional, but it is just a question of hierarchy, progression, appropriateness, different situations. So I think maybe that could be discussed, but I'm quite aware of time. So I think without any more ado from me, if Robert Adam can come in on the well, Robert, you'll explain better about this credit accumulation and transfer scheme.
Yeah. Sorry, you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. You're slightly faint.
Okay. No, I'll speak up then. So one observation is all classical architecture is traditional, but not all traditional architecture is classical. Just a sort of general saying on that one. I'll be very brief on this. I didn't actually, this came to me by accident because the two courses that I run, Classical Design Workshop and the Oxford Understanding Oxford Classical Architecture, because they're done through Oxford University, they've been given CATS points, credit accumulation and transfer scheme. I mean, not very many, to be perfectly honest, but they have been given them. I didn't ask for them. What it means is I have to mark the thing properly, and pass people or fail them. I haven't failed anybody yet. There's an agreement that these CATS points are coordinated with the European Credit Transfer System, ECTS. Two CATS points equals one ECTS point. just to give you some measure, though, I mean, the two courses I'm doing are 10 CATS points each. You need 360 of them to get a degree, or a master's, which is a sort of British sort of supplement to a degree, 150. And also you have to have a university that you has to plug into a university course that accepts them. I mean, we did look into this, I think, Jose Begano is on here and others. We did look into this in the past because I think the ECTS is the Bologna system. But it is out there. To what extent to what extent a participating university would manage to coordinate these things, I don't know. But there are other things. Cambridge School of Architecture runs an apprentice scheme. Reading, these are in Britain, and Reading is starting to do that as well. So there are I think certainly, of course, in the UK there is also Kingston University. There is an accredited second part of the architecture course actually running as a full-on accredited course, and has been for some time. So I'll stop there. It's there's no easy answer to that, but I think what's happening at Kingston is actually very important because it is fully embedded in an established architecture course. And I think personally, I think the atmosphere is changing out there. I think more, and also what's happening in Australia, there are opportunities for these, and Norway, opportunities for these things are going to come up from time to time as just part of this mosaic of different forms of education.
Mark, you're on mute.
It's my time.
Yes, it's your
Sorry,
time.
yes, I'm
Yes.
sorry, unmuted.
Okay.
Yeah, Bob, I just want to connect that up with, I think Noe put it very succinctly, the three options, and one option and the least bureaucratic and the most sort of the quicker results is to, piggyback or infiltrate or simply collaborate with an existing course as Timothy and Jonathan do at Kingston, so that you're not dismantling, or there's no revolution, there's nothing, there's just you have to find suitably sympathetic colleagues who are tolerant enough to allow this relatively radical thing to happen. So, and I totally agree that this is going to be certainly in Britain. I think we feel that this is going to be developing, and more there's more students who are calling out for this kind of material. They just have to get over the obstacle that it's not seen to be very cool or trendy to do so, and there's a little bit of inhibition there. So Jose, are you wishing to say interject here? I'm sorry, I can't. Can I unmute?
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, hello everybody. It's great to see so many people here. Well, just to add that, as Robert mentioned, we had some experiences on this here in Portugal. Actually, we had a course which had no accreditation in Viseu, and it was a disaster. It was a disaster mainly because of the students, because in the end, the students had to change for a completely different program, and it was sort of tremendous change of curriculum, which made them a huge confusion on the students. It was really a bad experience, so it didn't result well. It was a very good intention, but it didn't result well. Otherwise, we actually made another course in Lisbon with the Catholic University that went well within the system, and we were teaching there traditional architecture, both classical and vernacular, and we had we merged with other ways of viewing things, but it was a successful thing, which unfortunately closed because we had a huge crisis here in Portugal that made that many architectural schools had to close. So what I want to say, I would prefer a strategy that could go through existing structures, the existing courses, because I also feel and notice now that they are more open to our ideas, and it's possible today to give conferences, to make classes, to little by little change the curriculum of these courses, and be there and teach our goal is to teach traditional architecture, and we are reaching that possibility. That's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that is brilliant, and that puts and it sums up very well that position. And now, if Ettore is ready, then we're going to go over to, in a sense, a new development. And I don't know, I don't want to assume that people know about this already, but many of you will be hearing about this event in May in Berlin. But I think Ettore will explain everything.
Yes, I'm speaking on behalf of Samir Younes, who was busy for other things, and he asked me to introduce this event that is going to be held in May, and it is aimed at creating some program similar to the University of Notre Dame, but it cannot be the University of Notre Dame. This is not a kind of colonization of the University of Notre Dame, but it's just to share the program we have, the great success of the publication of the book on our pedagogy, which was a worldwide success that stimulated a great interest all around the world. It suggested the dean and the vice dean of the university to imagine some conference, which will be a kind of think tank, where many people, the greatest architects, the great practitioners and professors from Europe are going to converge to share information, to share ideas, and imaging a kind of school in Europe, or a series of schools. The idea is a kind of inter-European collaborative school where students are going to learn architecture, are going to learn urbanism, are going to learn building techniques, are going to learn everything that has to be the profession of the architects. And we are going to create during this conference, we hope, the idea for a possible curriculum of this program. But actually, we have to consider if this will be one school, will be several schools, because actually there are many proposals. I understand and I agree with what José Bagagna said, even if we have to consider that in some school, talking about these topics, it's like speaking about the Antichrist. And I've been teaching for 12 years also La Sapienza, and I know what was happening talking about these things. So I think it's important to decide how to do that. Actually, we have several proposals already, several possibilities in Europe. One is in Rome, near Rome, in the Accademia Vivarium Novum in Frascati, but we also received a suggestion from the mayor of Le Plessis-Robinson to have a place there. The idea of creating a group of schools in Europe that are teaching this subject is fundamentally important, because now also thanks to the social media, we know that there is no longer the the forbidden word of tradition, because no one magazine was publishing. It was very rare to listen about classical traditional architecture, but now with the freedom of social media, there is an incredible increase of people that are more and more interested on this specific subject. But we are also experiencing a very special moment, especially in Europe, where after the decision, the agenda of COP26, 27, 28, there is the need of changing drastically the way we are building. And so we really need to have people that are well prepared to build in a proper manner. And proper manner means respect of places, respect of climate, respect of needs, respect of habits. And the school wants to aim at these specific topics. So during the conference, we are going to debate in 3 days about the number, how many schools, one or more, as I said, but also what could be the curriculum, how this has to be planned, how long is going to be a program, because obviously the problem of the accreditation is a great problem, because differently from your country, for instance, in Italy, you don't need only the graduation. You need to be a licensed architect. And for licensed architect, it's mandatory every year to have credits, which is a kind of slavery, and it's a mess. So to have students that are interested in studying architecture is necessary to have a real diploma. And this is something that has to be recognized. So we are also thinking at the idea of having the accreditation from a state, the accreditation from a European community. And also we have to remember that in Europe, we have many programs in Brussels that are related to the development of tradition, the development of, practice. And the more the program are presented as a joint venture among countries, the more they can receive funds. So if we have institutions that are already working in this realm, not necessarily schools of architecture, it's possible to make a project that is putting together all these schools and present a project to the European community to be approved and to be independent from schools that are forbidden to talk about these things. Because even the problem José Bagagna was explaining about Portugal was also related with the jealousies and other things that were making this program difficult, while having an independencies, and these independencies must be national or must be private, we don't know. Probably a public school of architecture will be accessible, will be the right way, as we do in Italy. But actually, we are open to any kind of solution in order to have some correct way of teaching all the matters that are necessary to prepare real architects. And among these disciplines must be also the urban sociology. I'm quit.
Yes, sorry, I'm sorry to butt in like that. I just feel, we're such, I mean, it's so great. We all have so much to say. There's so many people and there's so many topics. But I think in a sense, with your, what you've been talking about, in a sense, we are waiting for what will happen. So I just thought, well, obviously we could speculate about ways to go, but I thought perhaps we need to cut you down so that we can move on with some other with the other topics. And I'm feeling a little bit nervous about this because we're still at it's quite late. We've been going for 2 hours and 20 minutes, and we still have the next section, which is about reach, visibility, impact, and recruitment, which is kind of fundamentally important as well. And we have coming up, we have inputs from Create Streets, Michael Diamond, and that's Architectural Uprising, and from I can't remember. Forgive me, Bart and Ruben. I don't know who's juggling that, but we're doing it both. But we have a contribution from Aesthetic City, and these rightly so, Ettore, you mentioned social media, and other people have, and its importance, and this sort of liberating and energizing function it has. And these people are really in tune with all of this world. And so we kind of, it's important to hear from them. but then, you know, we still have further reflections to come, and there's people like, you know, Mika, for example, we haven't heard from, who we'd love to hear from, and it's all in the schedule, but as I did say at the beginning, it was overambitious, and we're just being proved here that it is overambitious. So I'm really not sure, and perhaps we need people to turn their microphones on or put no, don't do that, put messages in the chat, because I don't know if we just persevere until the end, which you know, will take us through to 9:15, and that's maybe even 3.5 hours, which is a long time, or we cut something and we say we're going to talk about that another day. So say, just to give you some thought on that, we have this section coming up. The conclusion of this section is this question of reach, visibility, impact, and recruitment, which is sort of allied to what we've been talking about. And the just to repeat, this is presentations from Create Street, Michael Diamond, and then Aesthetic City, whether it's Bart or Ruben. And then there was then going to be a different section on reflections, comments, and advice from invited guests, which include Mika, and then I believe Ettore again. And then we were going to have questions and answers. There's people like Jonathan Wetherill and other, you know, there's all kinds of people who haven't talked yet. And so Maria Sancho, I'm just seeing, you know, it's a sort of random selection who I've got on my screen in front of me, and thinking, gosh, we haven't heard from him or her. And this is like, would be important and significant. So
just note, Mark,
we proceed.
I think Michael can't join. I just see a note from Bart.
Sorry, Edward, could you repeat that?
Michael can't join. Michael Diamond can't join.
Well, that saves us 3 minutes. Hey, I mean, I'm sorry about that, but let's look on the positive side. So do people want to put a chat in whether we persevere into however long it takes, or do we?
I think there are some messages coming through that most people seem to need to press on, but let's maybe keep it brief. Maybe.
Well, if we can keep it brief, we've saved 3 minutes. Michael, bless him. So let's press on then. But I think we have to cut the discussions that are there, in a sense, being the sacrificial bits that we can move on from. So then let's press on then into this section about reach, visibility, impact, and recruitment, and hear from Create Streets. And this is presumably Robert again, is it?
It is indeed, yes.
Right.
I'll try to be brief, Mark, conscious that people do want to get to dinners and things like that. Well, I'll talk slightly off topic, I think, because I've been asked to talk about planning policies and targeting officials and how do you actually make these things happen, which we do touch on in our summer school, at least briefly. And I think it's important to give a bit of context to some of what I'll be saying, which is that in the UK, in the past 6 months, the government has released this new 1.5 million house target that they want to build that many homes over the next 5 years. It's very ambitious when you think about it from the sense of how many houses you'll need in 5 years, but actually it's only about 300,000 on average per year, which is not much higher than targets we've had in the past. However, we've been very bad at building even those previous targets. And something that we found is that actually, you know, the way we build places now is very low density. And if we want to meet those targets without destroying the countryside, without building very low quality places, then we'll need to change some of our policies. And there are a lot of national policies in the UK which impact the way that we build things. There are a lot of national standards that highways officials and planning officials need to conform to. So how do you target those people? How do you actually make change, given that so much of this seems to be kind of set in stone? Well, design codes have been weakened in recent kind of planning changes, but they are still in there as an option. And we've been speaking to some of our friends who are high-level planning KCs, and they're reasonably confident that actually design codes, even within the new kind of planning regime, will still be impactful. And essentially what's going to happen in the UK is we'll go back to the system that we had a few years ago, before the previous government removed housing targets, which is that authorities which have something like a strong design code will be able to influence the quality of housing in their local areas if they're meeting their housing targets. Those places that are not meeting their housing targets, they'll have essentially no control, and the big house builders will be able to come in and build whatever crap they want, and it'll be approved on appeal. But we just actually today I was in a meeting with a county council, and it was pretty obvious that these councillors who were essentially the ones that had to approve local plans and approve local policies, they're well-intentioned people, but they're not professionals, and they don't really understand the consequences of the policies that they make. So I would certainly, if you live in England, I would urge you, because their political participation in the UK is pretty low. So I would urge people, if you do have ideas for how to improve places, write emails to your counselors, because they do care, and they are capable of making changes. They are capable of getting policies into local plans. They are capable of influencing their highways officials. They can change things like parking standards. Oxfordshire is a great example where they've essentially mandated car-free developments in the city center and have drastically reduced parking standards on edge of city locations. And that's purely a political thing that the councillors were very keen on, and much of the population was very, very keen to implement. So those kind of things will continue. I think, some councils, the progressive ones, are starting to understand this, and things will get better. Same with things like highways policies. You can impact those things politically, and we've been speaking with the government as well to change some of those things. So,
Robert,
yes.
may be brutal, because I think all of this is fantastic and it's really interesting, and we should be doing all those things. And Britain has many planning problems, and I'm sure other countries have problems, and the political aspect. If there is a political dimension to planning decisions, then all of these things are fundamental. But I think in terms of our sort of concentrating on what we can do in summer schools, and these questions of reach, getting the message out there, recruitment, visibility, impact. I think if you could just, anything else you want to say, keep it to that topic, and we'll come back to, I actually believe Nicholas is lined up for a talk, and that's coming up actually on the 13th of March. So we can encourage everyone here. I'll put out I think I should say it at the end normally, but I'll say basically a plug for Nicholas Boy-Smith, and Robert, you'll certainly be there, and what Create's got to say. They'll be there on the 13th of March, so do come along to that. Sorry, Robert, was that too brutal?
I'll just conclude very briefly, which is to say that our summer school, I mean, we do touch on a lot of these things, even though we have lots of people who come from all over the world. We do think it's really important, and I know lots of the other summer schools are doing this, but it's really important, I think, to ground what we teach people in the reality of what you can actually do within the planning context in whatever location that you're building. And hopefully in the UK, those things will get a bit better in some areas, though I'm sure they'll get worse in others. But just, yeah, if you come to our summer school, you'll learn about the boring planning bits too, if that's what you're interested in.
Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you. So now we don't have Michael, unfortunately, but we wish him well whatever he's doing. And we go on to social media as an effective tool for reaching a wider audience. So we have Aesthetic City coming up. Here we go, Bart. Maybe you need to turn on your...
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mark. Yeah, I'm sending the best regards of Michael Diamant and Ruben Hansen, who can't be with us for this section. I will do my best to represent their views, or at least touch on the topics they will talk about. So social media became a very controversial topic. We know all about this mental health issue, whatever, but we don't have to be consumerist zombies on social media. We can be the creators who spread the word about beauty. So next slide, please. Why? Well, let's be honest, many of us love classical architecture, but outside of our bubble, most people don't even know that this is an option today. You would show them a beautiful new classical building, maybe designed by one of the architects of the traditional architecture group who is hosting this, but people don't recognize it as new. So how do we change that? By showing our work to the world, by comparing what was there before and what we created. Social media lets you reach thousands of people, potentially millions, and it can be supporters, it can be clients, or it can just be people who love the same things that we do. But here's the challenge. How do we communicate classical architecture well? That's why we at the Aesthetic City created a free social media challenge that is still going on in this month to help 34 people find their voice on social media and share their passion in a way that actually connects with people. Next slide, please. And to give you some ideas what you can do, there's mindset and content issues. The biggest problem is that people overthink it. You don't need the perfect post. You just need to start. This is it, just start. Share your work, a sketch, a simple model, a construction detail. It can be very rough. Show the process. A time lapse of you while working with your phone. It can be you drawing or doing crafts. And talk about why it matters. Why do you love this, what you do? Why should others care? And most importantly, keep it simple. One image, one idea, or one short video. That's it. Next slide, please. So these are some examples of what participants of our social media challenge posted. For example, you could show an existing design and what you would design instead to make your city more livable and humane. Or you could share your personal story and how it all started, like our dear Pablo Funes did. Or like the architectural uprising from the Netherlands, you could just ask people, okay, what kind of building do you prefer to live in? It can be super, super simple. Next slide, please. So how do we overcome challenges? Like, I don't know what to post. Just pick one small thing. One small thing you notice in your street. Oh, but it must be perfect. You know, progress beats perfection. It really doesn't. No one cares if your lighting isn't perfect. It's about authenticity. Or I have no time. Even the busiest people on earth can plan in time for something they care about. And it can be just a couple of minutes per week where you sit down, write down notes, write down ideas, and look for images that would fit what you want to show. Next slide, please. And if you want to speed up your growth on social media, here's what works for us. Instagram and LinkedIn are really good platforms to start. In general, don't consume them, but go there with purpose and to find inspiration. Comment on other people's posts. This gets you seen. Repurpose content. One sketch can be like 5 posts. Or use trends, time lapses before after images. You can even do memes. And the last slide, please. So what could be your next steps? Well, you're dearly invited to join our next free social media challenge. And yeah, you can see results if you join this. If you stick with the format, we will show you an effective way to just invest a few minutes each week, create beautiful posts that really move people and that get them results. We already had book projects coming from this. We had clients who reached out to participants. We had almost viral hits, I would say, like really good reaches. So it can be really easy, even after 2 weeks, to make a real impact on there. And social media is just a tool. You can let it control you, or you can use it to shape the conversation around our cities and architecture. Let's make people see what's possible with our work. And my little challenge is also to you, post one thing this week. It's a detailed sketch, a thought, whatever feels easy for you. And the last slide shows our challenge. where you can just now take your phone, quickly scan this QR code to join us. Everyone is welcome. You can be a student, you can be a practicing architect, or not even from the field. Doesn't matter. If you want to improve there and support this movement, or inspire people, you can also reach out to us, of course, and this will lead to a Google form, which is basically just your name and your email. You're very welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bart. That's really great, energizing, and people should follow your advice and get out there. And I'm very grateful to you, social media people, including yourself, Ruben, and others for that. I mean, that Bath project. You've no idea how many people just sort of come, oh, you're that project. You know, they kind of, it's recognizable, and including people in Bath, just locals. You know, you're literally going in and getting your shopping or whatever, and people will say, anyway, so that's great.
Just quickly, one sentence about this. It can really just be one post or one project that you show that is really effective, and suddenly you reach so many people who want to work with you. It can be very, very easy if you just stick with it. Thank you for this example.
Thank you, Bart. Thank you, and thank you to Ruben and Michael and everyone else of you social media warriors out there. Doing your bit, quite fundamental. So good. We're getting towards the end, into the third section, which we could accelerate on depending on the protagonists, because this is reflections and comments, advice, and the people we'd invited really. We've heard a bit from Ettore already, so I'm inviting Ettore to be slightly brief, if you can bear it, Ettore. And Mika is someone we wanted to have comment at this point from a sort of wealth of experience and setting up the Utrecht school, which is obviously so successful, and there's these connections with the incubator, because if you remember that the incubator group started in Utrecht and then went on to Bruges. So we particularly wanted to have someone who hadn't actually done any of the presentations or interventions so far to come in with a voice. And I'm also conscious, I mean, I'm improvising this, Maria Sanchez, if you can hear me. I'm thinking that you over there, and you're earlier in the day, you'll be fresh, and you may have had a coffee after lunch, and you may be still going. So I was rather hoping that Mika and Maria, will sort of take over this next bit of reflections and ideas and comments. It can be quite sort of free and loose. We should be kind of winding down at this point and relaxing, and Ettore should be there as well. And then if we're not too long, we can then throw the floor open to the next category of people, which are past alumni, which would be really useful to hear from ex-students who are now, and of course there are some categories of people that are both once were students and then become teachers, and even actually Jacob Ring, who I'm lucky enough to have as part of Apollodorus. He's went to Engelsberg, did that inspired the direction he then went on to take. He has then done some teaching for Nadia and Noah in the Table Ronde, and then with Robert Adam. And then he went and did last summer the Create Streets school as a student again. So, you know, you can go around in a loop. And I'm just saying that because Jacob unfortunately can't be here. So that, if you can permit me to just sort of change the cards around, I think Italians have a nice phrase for this, cambiare le carte in tavola. So you just sort of, you're playing cards and you just shuffle them around, and hey, the game's changed. So if we can go to open up the discussion, hoping that Mika and Maria will have things to say. Ettore can come in whenever. You need to turn your microphone on, Mika, and then we'll move over to any or hope for any comments from past alumni, young teachers, Christian Hoff Anderson, Orlando. I'm afraid I don't know the pronunciation of Orlando's second name, and Isabella Riley. So, Sorcel, your Alicia's laughing, Orlando. That's good. We want no crying. We want laughter. at this point in our evening, at any rate. Mika, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, obviously, every face that I see on my screen now has a lot of experience in this field. So I won't, I'll stick to some remarks that I thought. The first thing is diversity is our strength. If you see what you have seen now, first of all, I see a lot of students from summer schools who are now leading positions in initiatives. So when I went to Robert Adam in, I think, 2016 to discuss whether we would start Engelsberg and how we would do that, I think no one had any idea that it would be such a success, which is not our doing, but which is that we found a source of people who wanted to learn things. So diversity is our strength, and that will also be the case for the kind of initiatives we take on the accreditation. I've also been for 12 years in our state committee, which gives a license to an architect when he doesn't have a finished architectural education. I think every country has one, and I've seen a lot of traditional architects too doing their exam in a state commission and then having a practice. Also, I have seen a lot of traditional architects and successful offices where a lot of non-accreditation, non-licensed architect work. So as for the Berlin conference, I also think if you think about the diversity of the universities we have in Europe, I have taught in some countries like in Germany, but also in Minneapolis for some 6 years. In Europe, there are so many different universities. It's very nice what you say, Bahanya say, to step in the universities that are open to us. Not all are, because I have talked with Delft a lot, and they are so innovative and they love innovation so stark that every one who adores Koolhaas and MVRDV and Ben van Berkel, they go to Delft. So that's a different thing. Diversity is a strength. So that's one thing that came to me when I see all what is happening. Second thing is I will pledge for a reality check. Please. I saw in a presentation of Bark also one of the projects of mine, like this one behind me on, it's all a fight, it's a struggle, you lose, and it's not as simple as having an opinion to really contribute to a project. So also, it's not possible to have an extra style or make a style in a 6 days or 2 weeks summer school. We have a beautiful practice now, a beautiful profession, and it's very wide. And if you have finished your education, you have learned a language, but you did not write a book yet, right? So give it time and don't think, let's do a 2 years, 2 weeks study and then make the best alternative ever. So do a reality check. That helps if you go to to get something built. So I like very much that a lot of the summer schools do a presentation to local authorities. I think that helps to have a reality check. There's a lot more to say, but I will stick to those two. So let's not bet on one horse. Diversity is our strength. And the second thing, please do a reality check on the things you are doing.
Thank you, Mika. Yes, and I think the reality check, unfortunately, will probably come to any of us when we start building at some point. But I think I like the way you tied the political aspect to it, because I think it's, well, let's say, possibly the summer schools that have the greatest impact are going to be those that manage to, at the same time, have a political message and affect the local politicians, how things, because that will have a knock-on effect outside one's own movement. Because anyone who's, say, interested in classical details or traditional craft, things we've heard about, pargeting, metalwork, all these things, we will be interested in that anyway. But I think the getting the political message is a bit like what Bart's been saying about social media. It's an important parallel activity, and some of us will be good at it, and some won't be so. But those who are good at understanding local interests, political interests, councillors in Britain or equivalent figures abroad. I mean, that's, if you've got that skill and you've got those contacts and connections, then I think that's really important. But yes, the otherwise the reality check comes around anyway. But it's good to look out for it, and the balance of idealism and reality is a constant tussle. So Maria, you've been put on the spot. You weren't necessarily know that you're going to be summoned, so to speak. Would you like to say something from your perspective?
Yes, I think, first of all, I wrote a little paragraph on the chat because I feel like I'm in paradise. This is just spectacular news. And because I was one of those students who didn't have the opportunity to study classical architecture when I was young. So it was a matter of having a mentorship in the right time, as some of you have suggested as part of this exploration. And then I found out the University of Notre Dame, and I had this opportunity and changed completely my life. But now that I'm here in Guatemala, I have two of my kids are studying architecture too, and they are in the same university, modernist university that I was, just because they need the title in order to practice in Guatemala. So now it's different because now they are learning modernist concepts, and I'm in the back teaching them the opposite, okay? But with the hope that someday they will again, they will catch all these programs also. In all this journal, I have been teaching at home to so many friends of my kids. There is so much hunger for students to learn classical architecture and urbanism, and they don't have the opportunity to do so. So what you are doing today is just spectacular, fantastic. I didn't know there were so many summer programs around the world today. I just knew like 7, and there are like 15. I am impressed. So I think that what you are seeking for the accreditation is so important. So I was proposing this like multi-institutional accreditation model, which I think it can help really the process. And that means that, like, better, the multiple universities that can participate on this together and certify this academic program of all the summer programs together is instead of everybody trying to do the accreditation in each country. I think that you can join together and find which universities can really help and join all together to credit these programs and help students between programs and transfer credits and I think that students should be able to, when you ask the question, what do we, after we finish a summer program, I just have seen so many different, such a richness between all these different programs. So if I was a student, I would love to go to one and then to the other one and then to the other one. It's just spectacular. So think about this. I think that can be like a next step to follow in order to have this all of you together working together to have an accreditation that is international for everybody.
Maria, if I can just, because you maybe, I just interject, because you may want to go on to develop other ideas, so I don't want to stop you, but it's interesting. I think we just connect back with what Ettore was saying about the European Union, particularly just taking the conversation to Europe, that let's say bureaucrats and politicians and the people who maybe give out grants and they love different institutions from across different countries. And it is a way of actually breaking out of the barriers of a particular institution. Let's say, Mika was mentioning Delft. You know, you're going to have a hard time getting through anything traditional at Delft. But if you can, so I wouldn't know the mechanism, but as I say, if you're kind of multi-vision, and it may be what will come out of Berlin, I mean, we'll have to wait. But this is a thing that then can sort of get around bureaucratic and political things, because once it's multidisciplinary, like an academic discourse, you could be saying something completely banal, but if you say it's multidisciplinary and you have people from different departments and different faculties, you know, and different countries, you get these grants that exactly the same proposal by better scholars would not get if they just stayed in their own bunker, because the bureaucrats just love the idea. That's one of the things the criteria they feel they can reward. And so it is an idea, and I'm sure that will be discussed in Berlin. So sorry, I don't want, if there's other things you wanted to say, Maria, then go right ahead.
No, I think that was all, and I'm really enjoying this meeting a lot and seeing all of you together, like putting the future of the next generations with more possibilities. This is just spectacular, and we all have to be together in order to achieve this change for the future of the next generations. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Mark, can I add something on what
Yes,
you
no,
said?
in fact, Ettore, it's exactly the moment where you should be adding. Yes.
Thank you. No, because I would like to remind what the only wise man that was present at the fourth SIAM in 1933, who was not an architect and was Fernand Léger, told Le Corbusier and his friends, please remember that urbanism is social. Take all your project, all your idea, put back in your pocket, and try to listen whoever is behind you that is completely lost. And this is something that is the drama of the modernism, but is also the drama of every school today, because there is a tendency in making projects that are white elephants, as you are saying, we are saying cattedrali nel deserto, and students are learning absurd things, and sometimes projects are interesting or are not interesting. But in any case, in my experience in teaching, both when I was teaching at the University La Sapienza in Rome and now in this 24 years at the University of Notre Dame, I realized that when we ask the students to make projects that are merely academic, they work mechanically without a great passion. But whenever I make a project, and I do every year projects which are realistic projects, are participated projects, because they have to interact with the people to understand what is the real life, and the great challenge is to be able to do spectacular things in the respect of the restriction, in the respect of any kind of negotiation you have to do with your clients and the final users. They are working hardly with a smile on their face. And I will never forget that in 2007, when Rob Creer was desperate because in the Netherlands they were not able, the local architect, to make the project for Brandenburg with the traditional building. He asked me, could you come with your students and make a demonstrative project? And in 1 month, so in a summer school, it's doable, because in 1 month, while my third year students were making also the other courses, they designed 84 houses for 2 blocks. And those buildings designed by the third year students with a smile on the face were entirely built, and is the model to go forward with the Brandenburg project. So I think we, as a professor, we have to teach the students the real life, and we have to teach the students the respect of places, being yourself in the respect of the others. We have to clarify the meaning of freedom, because sometimes we believe that because of freedom we can do whatever we want, and at the end you have a kind of Zadid project, etc., while your freedom is ending when he's destroying my freedom. So we need to understand how to respect everybody. So my suggestion is to think of the way of teaching in the very sense of respect. Is the multidisciplinary approach must be something that is including social life and social needs.
Right, thank you very much, Ettore, and I absolutely agree. And I think it's actually, I don't think we've got Ben Bolgar here, but there is also another kind of model that we haven't discussed. I don't know if he would, or other people would like the characterization of, say, guerrilla projects, but often, community or social projects where you have if you like, a task force. So you have yeah, Mika is going thumbs up, I think, from back there, that there is a potential another model which might grow out of summer schools, where you have, if you like, available and ready and prepared students, ex-students, who can hear a call for arms, like, we have to go to Brandenburg because Rob Greer, sadly no longer with us, but the equivalent of Rob Greer and the situation you're just describing, Ettore, that may come up tomorrow, next month, or in 3 months' time. And that could also be another model for gathering, because there are all these people out there. And as people have made clear, there are also students who don't get into our summer schools because of they're competitive. So, there's going to be different paradigms, and that's great. So now at this point, say it's all getting brutally abrupt, and I'm aware that I'm talking too much, but the only thing is that Georgia has had to go to for an emergency, unfortunately. So I'm going to be just brutal by myself. But so Christina, you have your hand up.
Yes, and I am very conscious of the time, in part because I have to run to a job site to meet a general contractor where
that's
the real
a good
world,
excuse. That's a good reason. Yeah.
But I wanted to just, first of all, thank you, Mark. It's great to see you again after so many years. Thank you to everyone who organized the event. I wanted to suggest that I feel like there are two groups that are missing in this event. And I think if it's just about INTBAU summer schools, this doesn't make sense. But if it's a broader discussion, as it seems to turn into, about education and how we change practice, I really think the next time that we have one of these, that someone from the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art ought to be here, and also from the King's Foundation. You mentioned Ben. Ben and I were the first 2 students at Notre Dame.
I remember.
We've been through this, and I feel like there's a lot of knowledge that is missing in discussions about accreditation and all of that. So
I totally agree. But just to defend, I think poor Georgia, because there's a massive amount of coordination gone into this, and you could go in various different directions, and we were struggling to find some limits, because if you can say, it's just summer schools, we don't have to talk about that, or if so that obviously the ICAA, and the King's Foundation, of course, Ben would have been entirely, in favour of coming and talking. It's just that we have, also TAG is a small group. We're pro bono little little committee of
Yeah.
of
No,
people.
Mark,
There's limits.
it's no criticism.
I take your point completely.
What's exciting is that this is a much broader discussion about where we are today and what we can do to impact and change education and therefore architecture. And I think that's a broader discussion that maybe leads to another conference in the future.
Yes,
So,
yes, and also school children. I mean, because we have some of the summer schools do, and it has been made clear, and there's no confusion of this, that there is openness in some summer schools to take high school students pre-uni. And I remember at Table Ronde, I won't name names, but a fabulous couple of students. You couldn't believe that they were, and my own comment was, oh, the professor's going to have trouble with you because you don't really need them. I mean, you're already sort of doing such great things. But you know, there's different ways we can go, and I think we're getting, you know, this energy is fantastic. So thank you, Christine. You run off to keep that site foreman under control.
right. That's right. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
And good luck with the Charleston.
Yes, thank you. We're excited.
Yeah, good. So then trying to steer the ship towards a safe haven and avoid the rocks. We have a next category of individual, let's say, our past alumni, young teachers. And on my screen over here, I have Christian Hoffer Andersen, Orlando with the unpronounceable surname that's probably just Sorcel, or I don't know what, but we'll hear soon, and Isabella O'Reilly. Now, don't feel obliged, any of you three, to talk at length. I should just say that because, you know, time is compressing. But if you have a little insight you would like to share, that would be fantastic. And if you don't have, and you know, we'll accelerate if you don't have it, whatever. So either of all three of you, two of you, one of you, take the floor. I can see Orlando on my screen.
Yeah, well,
So you don't have to
Orlando's
start.
here. Yeah, Surcel works. In Australia, I mean, people say Surcel. In Europe, it's Surcel. But yeah, I've attended around, I guess, three to four traditional architecture summer schools by now. I love it, and yeah, I feel that although as I attend university, summer schools have been the basis of my education in architecture, and yeah, hope to continue going to more summer schools and to teach hopefully in the future. But yeah, no, on each of these programs, I feel like, yeah, no, you discover what is good architecture. It often tends to be traditional or classical. And you realize that, well, you know, good architecture improves the way you live. It connects you with other people, you know, through shared truths. And yeah, encourages our better humanity, I think, as well. And if I was to share one remarkable thing, which you know, I thought of recently, is that after you go to a few summer schools and you study and travel and study enough buildings, you realize that although there's thousands of building traditions across the world, they each speak to our humanity. I feel that they encourage us to ask us questions, better questions. And I feel that summer schools are the way we can explore this kind of dialogue. I mean, this is a dialogue that has continued for thousands of years. People have, asked questions about architecture. What is the spirit of architecture? From Vitruvius all the way to the Sufis. And I feel that, now in the 21st century, it's our turn now. And to contribute to this millennia-long dialogue. And I'm excited for the adventure ahead. That's it.
Fantastic. So you're a summer school addict.
Pretty much, yeah.
And that's great. Just one thing. Have you finished your sort of official architectural training?
Not yet, not quite yet. I originally studied arts and have now shifted to architecture. But yeah, hope to soon. And yeah, no, not quite yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Well, good luck with it. And so then we have Christian and Isabella. You can take the floor together, unmute together. You know, whatever you like. I don't know how you decide which of you goes first, but oh, ladies first. Isabella, off you go.
Thanks. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay.
I can anyway. Yeah. Assume so for everyone.
So I participated last summer in the 2024 Bruges summer school with Le Table Ronde, but I'm very different from most participants, which I think is why Georgia asked me to speak, because I actually am not an architect at all. Don't want to do that professionally. I studied fashion design in Paris, and I'm actually a bridal seamstress and designer. And I applied with fashion sketches. So a little bit of a different experience, but I was really drawn to the traditional architecture movement and community because I was realizing that architect students have the same experience that I had in design school, where you weren't given any guidance about what are the practical foundations of good design. And then you're expected to create with like your collections and whatnot, with the only standard of excellence being whether or not you're expressing your concept. And there isn't this dependence on tradition or whatnot. Sorry, I'm still in the studio working. There's no dependence on tradition or looking to past techniques to build, like create for the future or create for the present. It's just about this very, can you argue to the jury that you expressed your concept? So I went to the school and I was totally blown away with my experience. I was absolutely terrified. I sew, I design clothes, I don't draw, and I was doing measured architecture drawings for the first time in my life, and they were like actually really good. I was blown away by the professors at the school. All of them were amazing. Noe and Nadia are amazing. The history of the school was like amazing, the city. And as a person, both in my profession, which is clothing, I'm focusing on another basic human need. You know, we have food, clothing, and shelter. Architects, it's shelter, but all of those build the human experience. And my experience there formed me both professionally as seeing like other people who care about using traditional skills, using traditional techniques, etc. But then also created me sort of as like an evangelist for this. Like I've talked to everybody now about creating a more like beautiful and humane built environment, because I really believe it's not just architects or like urban planners who care. Like it's not just their responsibility; it's all of us together that are like build our culture and build our community. So I kind of talk to everybody about it now. So, and I hope I can attend other summer schools. But I would highly advise any of the summer schools for anybody who just believes in building a better and more human environment. You know, you don't only have to be an architect. I think everybody.
Right. Well, yeah, absolutely. That's a very good message. So thank you very much, Isabella. And I hope we paths cross, and then we can get, at least I would like to get into conversations about Gottfried Semper and dressing and Adolf Loos and what he wrote about tailoring and why he produced the architecture he did at the end of his life, which has got a lot worse than it was earlier, etc. So, so thank you for that. And Christian, you're the last of the designated trio.
All right.
So do speak up if you have something you'd like to share.
Sure. Thank you for asking me. I was a student at the first Engelsberg school in 2016, which was 1 year before I graduated. So I did my diploma in 2017 at the Royal Academy's School of Architecture in Copenhagen, Denmark. And now I'm an architect with my own little firm. I do mostly consulting and writing and speaking, but I'm also part of the board of the Architecture Uprising and INTBAU Norway. So I do some stuff through them, some media appearances, that sort of thing. So I can start by saying the summer school was extremely inspiring. There was something about meeting other people who are like-minded, not just online, but in real life, and learning a lot of skills while also sort of gaining the confidence to practice these things, not just on my own, but I did, among 200 candidates at my school for the diploma, I was the only one with watercolors that year. I was the only one who did a classical project with direct references to classical architecture. I wouldn't have dared to do it, basically, if it hadn't been for the summer school. And I also had a sort of circular competition with being a teacher last year at the Norwegian summer school. I'm going to do it again this year. Teaching styles, tutoring. Last year I was also organizing a lot. And then, I still carry this with me. I might do another summer school, who knows, both to see how other people do it so I can keep doing it in a good way, get inspired, but also maybe kickstart my own design work again after doing more theoretical stuff for a while. So there's also talk of pairing with a school in Oslo that does a Masters of Interior, and we might start doing a classical program there. So that's another way that I'm thinking of doing this, or maybe a PhD. I don't know, but I really feel like, first learning so much and sort of consuming all this knowledge and all these skills, and then spreading it out again. It's an extremely inspiring way of working and then being part of a bigger crowd.
Fantastic. Yes, thank you. Thanks very much, Christian. So here we are, just about, I think, at the end, near the end, in the sense that there's time for questions and answers that I or Georgia don't control. And, well, actually, I suppose someone has to allow you to mute or unmute or something like that. But essentially, we can have questions. People can put their hands up. Because I'm not Georgia, I may be a bit handicapped at, recognizing the thing. So I think chats, I may not be able to sort of keep control of the chat. So if you put the hand up with that yellow, that sort of, well, actually, no, Guy is doing a physical hand. I suppose that in front of the camera, that will do. Otherwise, that little yellow Simpson color hand. But Guy, off you go.
Yeah, hi. Hi, everyone. Some of you already know me because I just organized a congress for mayors of urban renaissance in France. And what I wanted to say about summer school is that when I started 6 months ago to try to develop traditional architecture in France, I wanted to create a school. But I faced so much dogmatism that I found it very difficult to do it. So the key to unlock the thing for me was to start to talk to the politicians. And that's what I did. And so I organized this congress, which was a real success. And we had a lot of politicians who said, oh, why don't we teach that? And so it was the key to opening the thing. And now we're talking about creating summer school for mayors, not for students of architects, but for mayors. And because the mayors in France, I don't know in the other countries, but the mayors in France are king in their city and they decide everything. So they can decide to build up a new area of the city, they decide absolutely everything. So if we're able to convince the mayors, then they can do anything. They can build traditional cities, they can build traditional buildings, they can open schools, they can organize summer school and finance them. And the idea was, okay, let's forget about the architects, just target the mayors and the politicals, member of parliaments. I'll also spend one day with our new prime minister to discuss those issues. So targeting the politicians, I think in France, might be the key to unlock the whole thing. And now I've already had many mayors who came to me and talked to me who said, oh, I would like to organize summer school this summer. And we also had some mayors who said, I want to extend my city. Could you give us some help? Because up to now I had only modernism to do that. And I want to do it differently. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I think that's picking up, Guy, what you're saying. I think we sort of touched on it very slightly with the idea of sort of guerrilla movement, whether that's the right way, the right term. But one thing we could think about at some point is sort of pooling together potentially available people. You know, if it's just a sort of way that, you know, hey, there's this initiative that's come up. This mayor wants to, you know, do this. Who would be available? Who's got some free time? Who wants to suspend what they're doing? It could be a useful resource. So yeah, no, good luck with that. And I'm sure I could speak for most of us here that you would have no problem finding skilled professors, practitioners, painters, draftsmen, teachers of whatever form to help you in that initiative, because obviously it could potentially be a game changer in certain areas. Yeah, so thank you for that. So anyone else want to put their hand up? Otherwise, I will invite, I mean, I'll wait for a second because do put your, otherwise I would invite, you know, those stalwarts like Bob Adam, who's, you know, started a lot of these things years and years ago and maybe has some reflections. But before we resort to that nuclear weapon, any other questions? Yes, Jonathan? By the way, I'm not very good at this, so apologies just to everyone. I just see, for some reason, there's some people on my screen and others aren't. I don't know why that is. And if I see a hand up, I'm going to go for it. So otherwise, you've got to, maybe Edward. Is Edward still here?
Yeah, I'm
Edward, if you look out for can you look out for the chats?
Yeah, I am.
Questions can go into, I revised what I was saying earlier. If Edward's around, questions can go into the chats, and therefore that's another avenue of participating. So, Jonathan, over to you.
Yeah, just very quickly. I'm very sorry I wasn't able to join Guy's wonderful congress in Le Plessis-Robinson. I heard a lot of very good things about it from my colleagues, but I wanted to add another aspect to that. The mayors, the administrators, the politicians are of course on the front line of this movement. If we can get them on our side, it's a very positive thing. But the mayors are sometimes politically, I mean, they are very frequently politically oriented. So you have to be careful about getting politically involved. The other thing is that also mayors don't last forever. What I've found actually very, very important is to get the people that are very important to get on board are actually the planners who are working in planning offices and work with mayors, of course. But if they can be persuaded by the mayor indirectly through us or by us directly, or we can even infiltrate planning offices and put people of our own members in planning offices, huge steps can be made can be made. I mean, to have the support of a planning officer who is behind your open project, as I have near Milan, is extremely valuable and makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, we've got. Is that it, Jonathan? We've got.
That's all. I just want my quick 2 cents on
thank you for that.
Guy. Thank you.
And Niels Bonnet.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a student from Sweden. I want to thank for this event. It's super informative and educational. I accuse me of is it the wrong topic, but I am in the progress of starting up a project in Sweden, in Scandinavia, together with some guys from Norway. I was referred to Pablo Alvarez Funes, I think, by Acanthus in Norway. I was just going to ask if anyone has any advice for what I can do to, as a architecture student in Sweden, how I can make my school lean more towards the traditional side of architecture and the craftsmanship focused side of architecture. Thank you.
Niels, you mean your fellow students?
Yeah, fellow students or school leadership, perhaps, because in my opinion, my school, Lund University, is very modernist focused. and it kind of takes a big part in the education. And together with Mikael Diamant, I've been planning out a project in which the end goal would be to kind of represent students in Lund or in Sweden who want to see more of the traditional education in the actual programs of architecture in the big schools.
Right. I think it's probably my own sort of comment would be that if you're isolated, you know, you'll be picked off and you'll be ignored. And if you can get a big enough student group, they cannot ignore you and they have to listen. So, you know, it's a question of whether you can find like-minded people within your own group in the first instance, and then you might be able to find others in other universities, and you could, you know, get a momentum going. But I think. But I don't want to. Any other comments from
Mark? Sorry, can I give a suggestion to the students?
Yeah.
Because I understand perfectly their points. Because we are all survivors. Because no one of us, except for a very few fortunate, studied in schools that were talking about the classical traditional architecture in terms of design. But one way to open the mind of some school which is completely square-minded is to have a committee of students that are proposing the school to invite experts of this kind of architecture to show that this is not utopia, but it's a real architecture that is going on all around the world. Because many times all the countries are thinking that the grass of the adjacent country is better. And at that point, this knowing that abroad there are things that are happening probably would change the schools of architecture, especially in a moment where we are abusing with the words of sustainability, promoting everything but sustainability, while there is the opportunity, there is the alternative. And so the students can teach their professor what they have to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ettore. And we haven't, the word sustainability is mentioned. I think I said it in the very opening comments, but it is the fundamental thing that does grab a lot of people, including whether it's politicians or non-architects. I mean, it is very, very clear to people as soon as they think about it in our throwaway culture that we throw away buildings, that modern buildings are very, very hard to dismantle and to recycle. Whereas, I mean, I'm in this old house, I've recycled the tiles. I've done different building, you know, recycled stuff, built on extensions using old materials. You know, lime mortar, what's the problem? And performs better than the cement. So, yeah, absolutely. So, any more hand? Jonathan, back up. Yep. And it's not democratic, this system. It's just a question of who gets there first. So any other questions, put your hand up and say there are chats, and Edward can do his best to butt in and spot the chats if they're coming that way. So Jonathan, your hand.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. I just wanted to say another thing on another subject. Obviously, all of the summer schools that we've talked about, and the more summer schools there are, the better, create that critical mass of young people who are interested in learning about architecture of this type, and force universities to create courses or studios or master degrees in traditional architecture. And I just wanted to mention one thing that on behalf of Mario, which I don't think she mentioned about the Finnish summer school, which is very important, and which is that she has got local university on board, and they are recognizing, they're giving credits to members of their university who go to INTBAU summer schools, to the Finnish summer school. So that is also a way of infiltrating universities and forcing them to recognize the value of traditional architecture, because those credits also go to Erasmus students from other universities who are coming to Finland and then go back to, let's say, Italy or Germany or other places, and can then spread this sort of positive virus. So these are all ways of making huge headway, I think, and very important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. So how are we doing on everyone?
Ro had something to say, Mark. Here he is.
Right.
I wanted to say something about this fight against the establishment in the universities. And sometimes we all have been young, we all have liked to fight, but sometimes it can be in practical terms, can be for the student, can be like clashing, hitting a wall and clashing it. And talking from my own experience, sometimes it's better to get the title and rank, and your professional life will be much fun than your student's life. And remember that the university is just the beginning of your professional life, not the end of your life, even if it looks quite bad. And I would say that's sort of, I mean, I know that has been discouraging because we have been talking about all this, let's unite and let's fight the establishment. But at the same time, if you cannot, that's okay. Once you are a registered architect, once you start designing, you can do whatever you want, and you will do much better than what you think it is. The university, the School of Architecture, a modernist School of Architecture is not the reflection of how the world or the professional life is going to be. Most of your colleagues or your professors who tell you to be modernist, if they had a practice, they would end up doing a big percentage of traditional projects. So if you cannot change the system, get the title and rank. Smile and nod and get the title and rank. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's also possible. You can, and there are some. I mean, I'd had a lot of us would have had a completely, if you like, a non-traditional education, and there's been some excellent parts of it which you can then reapply once you've actually, your mind has sort of sorted out the problems by experience and by learning, and you know, so that's it's not all rubbish. It's just yes, Maria.
Yes, I will need to leave, but I want to say something before I leave. And I have been trying to follow all the summer programs and publish them in all my social media, because I want everybody, like I am in the Latin American continent, so I'm like trying to put all these students to go and become also part of this movement. But is there a possibility for all of you to establish like a website or something in which students can go and see the richness of all that we have seen today? Because sometimes I receive just like parts of it. So, but today I am impressed. So I think you should like consider to put everything in a website or in a visible, because I think it's very important for students to see that they are not alone. And maybe
Absolutely.
they don't know that they have so many programs around the world.
I think because now, I don't know, it's a sort of domestic development, is that now TAG, as the Traditional Architecture Group, is now formally equivalent to, or hosting, we use this term, of the INTBAU UK chapter, which didn't really exist before. In a sense, the TAG was the equivalent organization. And INTBAU has a lot of this information available under a section under resources under the website, and you can see different institutions. For example, Christine mentioned we haven't had anyone from the ICAA here, but they're also very important, and you will see them listed, and you'll see lots. But it's not, let's say, particularly compelling as a graphic experience, or it's not particularly visible. So I will certainly mention it to people at INTBAU and see what they can be done with making that more accessible, more compelling, more visible. And at the moment it's just like lists, and you can obviously press on a link, but it could be made with images and so on, so that that would do something. So that would be a resource. But we'll have to have a conversation about, say, pooling names and resources in a way that there may be there may be an AI method that is quicker and faster and people access. So it's one for, I'm not the right kind of person to comment on that. So we'll a good point, and we'll do what we can within TAG in the UK, and then we'll look to other people internationally for collaboration. So who's up for any more, or we've I have just a little closing announcement at some point when we get there. But it's yeah. Now yeah, off you go. You're coming across as R. Brown on here, which is terribly bad, because I should know who you are. But off you go.
No, there's no reason you should, but thank you, Mark. Despite, to be frank, not being overly environmentally sort of friendly myself, it does strike me that ultimately there is an irreconcilable conflict that's going to come up between environmentalism, proving one's green credentials, and the realities of modern architecture. And eventually, I think reality will assert itself, and the universities will need to make a choice. You know, which virtue would they rather sort of champion the most? How do we give it the little push over? Because actually, I think it needs less leverage now than it's ever done before, potentially.
I think you're absolutely right there. I'm just conscious of the sort of time and what we can do, because I think that certainly within our sort of tag talks, we can go in different directions. And recently we've had more craft stuff, but we've had a couple of sustainability talks, but arguably we could do much more in that area. And it is, I think, one of the fundamental, because it's a complex, sustainability goes all the way from a sense of place and a more existential sort of being in the world and living and philosophical, humanistic aspects of it, all the way through to carbon issues and all of that, and recycling. And so I think we could definitely do more. And I think it is it is one of the main arguments going forward, that it is ultimately, whether it's Poundbury, whether it's Plessy Robinson, whether it's other places over with Maria in Guatemala, all these places will outlast the normal modernist equivalents. But its long-term thinking is often the most difficult to sell. But if it can have a trendy gloss, it'll go faster. So it's a question of how to make that, So Bob, I'm glad you're put your hand up. About time too.
Well, I just want to say a couple of things. One was about which Pablo mentioned. Yes, the people are taking various tactics. For myself, I very nearly failed because I tried to fight the system, and it didn't kill me in the end. But my favorite story is someone who remained nameless, who pretended his tutors took him to one side and said, "We'll fail you. You carry on doing this." So he pretended he was a born-again modernist, and everyone loves a convert, and they gave him lots and lots of prizes. And he left, and he said, "No, I was just joking." I think probably the more serious point, I think, which Maria made, and I think is very important. INTBAU was created, and Arne is one of the people who's there at the very beginning will know this. INTBAU was created precisely to make sure that people who were operating in this field didn't feel alone. That's actually why it began. So this is how we should continue. Arne and Mika as well will know that early on there were very few people, but now there are a lot. I think the point that was made about what's so impressive about this is, I think the first summer school was actually the Iberian one, or the Spanish one, actually, not Engelsberg.
Yep, sorry, that's absolutely correct.
But Engelsberg, they both sort of spread themselves out, and it's incredibly gratifying. But it's an incredible constellation. But one of the issues is, and INTBAU has got a committee that can do this, is actually to pull this constellation together, so that other people can actually see this as, and probably graphically, as an incredibly strong constellation. And by doing that, of course, it enables each one of these organizations to coordinate with one another. I mean, there is a phenomenon, I think, has already been mentioned, of summer school tourism, where you actually one goes from one to another. And I think what's happening at Cambridge actually is actually taking advantage of that. But I think that there's great strength if we can organize the constellation into into something that is coherent, because it'll enable people to move from one to another and to possibly to gain qualifications. But sitting here listening for a very long time, so I'm going to shut up. It's incredibly impressive and incredibly heartening for those that have spent years and years trying to get to a point like this. I'll be quiet now.
Well, Bob, I think we have to say at that point that it's precisely because people with your energy and talent have been, being so assiduous and in promoting the cause. So I think a lot of people wouldn't be here, but for a relatively few number of people like yourself. So thank you on behalf of everyone for that. Well, that's quite a good note on which to end, unless there's some other reason why I shouldn't. But I feel time, we're 3.5 hours and a bit more. So do I have permission to wind things up? No dissenting voices or hands. There's a couple of thumbs up. I'm going to take that as permission. And just I've got a little point to make about I already mentioned it, but Nicholas Boy-Smith will be in conversation with Samuel Hughes on March the 13th. That's our next tag talk. And that's going to be pretty interesting and dynamic, and all these issues about getting to the politicians, social media, outreach, and the other things that are not strictly architectural that facilitate what the architect and what we are trying to do. That's the sort of topic that they'll be confronting. So that's Nicholas Boy-Smith in conversation with Samuel Hughes on March the 13th. So do try and tune in for that. That'll be obviously online. And otherwise, just to say thank you very much for hanging on in there over 3.5 hours in. We're, the hardcore now, but there was a lot of people and well over 100. And Georgia had a little conniption when realised that the Eventbrite only took up to 100 and had to go off and let these other people in. So I think that's we've never had that before at TAG, so that's a great pleasure. That little annoyance is a pleasure. So, and I also want to say thank you immensely to Georgia for really sort of guiding this event and all the coordination it takes. But she had to disappear, so I think we'll all sort of, anyone who wants to send Georgia a message afterwards, say thank you, do that, because she's amazing what she does, and this is not the only organisation she helps out with. So that's fantastic, and thank you to Edward, who has been sort of quietly organising all those slides and obeying people's next, back, forward, back, no, the other one, which is not easy. So thank you very much to Edward and all the other TAG members who support what we do. INTBAU, of course, and all of you who've contributed. I mean, I think it's been amazing, exhausting, but amazing. And I've heard the word inspirational, and I think we'll go away with that. That's not a bad one to end. And hopefully there'll be other events like this or hosted by other organizations, and we'll all see each other in surrounded by enthusiastic participants who are learning and moving forward. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.